Chapter 3553. Hearing this voice, Chen immediately turned his head and saw a middle-aged man looking at him indifferently. Lei Wusheng frowned slightly and said, "What do you mean?" Under everyone's gaze, the middle-aged man stepped forward and said, "As everyone knows, the Immortal King armor has extraordinary defense. Once you enter the core area, it will definitely play a great role. Under such circumstances, the Immortal King armor naturally needs to be worn by the strongest person. It's really unwise to give it to a mere 4-star. Many of the other 6-star holy spirits nodded in agreement. There were also some who looked a little hesitant. Lei Wusheng did not respond immediately. After taking in everyone's gaze, the middle-aged man said again, "Of course, I don't mean to belittle Chen at all. I just think that a 4-star like him is not suitable to wear the Immortal King armor. This time, he has made great contributions to our Holy Thunder clan. I think he has done enough. It's not necessarily a bad thing for him to stay here. After all, he's only a 4-star. Chen looked at the middle-aged man who was obviously hostile. The other party not only wanted him to lose the Immortal King armor, but also wanted to cut off his path forward. That's right, I also think this is a good idea. After all, Chen has already made great contributions. There's no need for him to take any more risk. After entering, there will be many dangers. Once he dies inside, all his previous efforts will be wasted. I agree to let Chen stay." "I agree too." Then, 5 or 6 people began to express their opinions. The others' expressions changed, and they were hesitant. Lei Wusheng looked at Chen and said, "Chen, what do you think?" Chen did not hesitate at all and said directly, "I don't know what everyone is thinking, but to me, entering the core area has nothing to do with contributions. I only want to do something for the Holy Thunder clan and make whatever contributions I can." The middle-aged man said with a smile, "Chen, we are very touched by your kindness. However, there are many people going in this time. It doesn't matter if we lose one." Chen said, "I've made up my mind. Even if I die in battle, I'm willing." Hearing this, the middle-aged man laughed again, "Well said, we really admire you. We naturally don't care about your life or death, but you shouldn't have kept the Immortal King armor on you, and you shouldn't have prevented the Holy Thunder clan from creating an invincible expert for your own selfish reason." Facing the other party's overbearing attitude, Chen smiled coldly. "Oh, you mean I have to give you the Immortal King armor?" The middle-aged man said, "It seems that my approach has caused you to have a big misunderstanding, or hostility. Don't worry, I don't want the Celestial King armor because I know that my strength is too weak. I feel that the Celestial King armor should be given to Lord. Your Excellency is already powerful. Once you have the Immortal King armor, you will be invincible." As he spoke, the middle-aged man cupped his fists at Lei Wusheng and said, "My lord, for the sake of the Holy Thunder clan's future, please don the Immortal King armor and lead us to glory again." A smile appeared at the corner of Lei Wusheng's mouth. "My lord, please don the armor. My lord, only when you are strong can we obtain the greatest harvest under your leadership." Those who were anxious to express their stance earlier all spoke up at this moment. Chen didn't say anything and just looked at these people. Lei Wusheng's gaze swept across the others. These people did not express their stance, so he asked, "What do you all think?" When Lei Wusheng's gaze swept across them, everyone seemed to have understood something. They nodded one after another and then expressed their stance. Obviously, no one objected to Chen giving the Immortal King armor to Lei Wusheng. "I object." At this moment, a cold voice rang out. It was Lei Wusheng, who had been sitting in the corner. She said calmly, "The armor was obtained by Chen. What right do you have to give it to whoever you want?" The middle-aged man who spoke first said, "My lord, you have misunderstood. We are not asking for Chen's Immortal King armor. We just feel that at this time, the Immortal King armor can only unleash its greatest power in the hands of an expert. Of course, both of you have unparalleled combat strength. Anyone can do it, but only the 4-star Chen can't, because that would be a waste of God's gift." The others nodded again and expressed their opinions with the most sincere hearts. Naturally, they stood on the side of righteousness and put pressure on Chen. Lei Wusheng nodded slightly and asked, What's your name? When Lei Wusheng directly asked for his name, the six-star Holy Spirit said excitedly, My lord, my name is Hu Huanshan, from the Holy Thunder Clan's Hu family. Lei Wusheng smiled and said, You are very good and insightful. So are you. When the people who spoke first heard this, a hint of joy appeared on their faces. Especially Hu Huanshan, there was even a hint of unconcealable pride on his face. Although the two of them were at the same cultivation level, he knew his own identity. Being able to gain Lei Wusheng's favor was more important than anything else. Next, he should continue to put pressure on Zichen, thinking that he had found a way to please Lei Wusheng. Unexpectedly, Lei Wusheng waved his hand and said, All right, this is your command flag. I hope you can do something. I will send someone to follow you. Be careful. Under everyone's shocked expression, Lei Wusheng handed the command flag to Zichen. Zichen took the command flag and nodded slightly at Lei Wusheng. All right, everyone go back and prepare. Wait for my orders. Lei Wusheng waved his hand, indicating for the crowd to disperse. Hu Huanshan and the others looked at each other in dismay. How could this be? The others who spoke first were also dumbfounded. Zichen was the first to leave. When he reached the door, there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. Through this scene, he at least knew who was targeting him, or deliberately trying to curry favor with Lei Wusheng. Lei Wusheng seemed kind and easy to talk to, but in reality, every step he took was extremely profound. Zichen had a good impression of him, so there was no need to describe him as shrewd. It could only be said that he had extraordinary wisdom and planning. His personality was completely different from Lei Wusheng's, but the brother and sister clearly complemented each other. No wonder they came out together. The next step was to wait patiently. During this time, Lei Lan had already heard the news and returned. The reason Zichen had brought her along was naturally to use Lei Lan's perception to increase the harvest of this expedition. Lei Lan came to Zichen's side and said straightforwardly, The bloodline ancestor looked for me. I only asked for 2 shares. Zichen was stunned when he heard this. Then, he thought of the crux of the problem and showed a stunned expression. Why? Lei Lan said with a smile, You can give up many shares for the Holy Thunder Clan. Why can't I give up 3 shares? Seeing the determination in Lei Lan's eyes, Zichen could only nod. He was willing to give up for the Holy Thunder Clan. Lei Lan naturally had the right to do so. However, I am not as generous as you. I gave the 3 shares to you, not the clan. Chapter 3554. Zichen looked at Lei Lan and realized that he could not see through her. 3 portions of resources was a huge amount. How could she just give it away like that? Although I also want to repay the Holy Thunder Clan, you've done enough for the Holy Thunder Clan this time, so I'll give you the 3 portions. I think you need these resources more than the Holy Thunder Clan. Lei Lan sat next to Zichen and looked into the distance. Through this incident, we all know that it's hard to do things alone. However, I don't know how to develop my force at all. You're different. You have a world and many trustworthy friends. Therefore, you have the opportunity to develop your force. Zichen sat there and fell silent. This was his only shortcoming at the moment. However, developing a force in the huge Saint Spirit realm was easier said than done. Just treat it as my investment. I hope that if I'm in danger one day, your force or your intelligence organization can save my life. Lei Lan stood up and patted the dust off her body. She said, Let's go. Remember to be prepared. Our opponents this time are far more than those who call themselves immortals. Zichen understood what Lei Lan meant. Where the flag was placed, there would naturally be friction or battle with other forces. 2 days later, the experts gathered outside the teleportation formation. This was the first time Zichen saw so many 6-star holy spirits. They came from various clans of the Holy Thunder Clan. It could be said that the Holy Thunder Clan had really sent a large number of experts for this opportunity. Powerful auras surged, causing the space here to distort. The weakest among them was a 5-star. Their goal this time was not to kill the enemy, but to occupy. 6-star holy spirits were the main force. One had to know that a 5-star holy spirit was the ruler of a force. However, in this place, They were not even considered cannon fodder. As for the other low-level existences, most of them were reduced to miners, mining for the opportunities here. Lei Wuxing and Lei Wushuang stood at the front. Behind them were dozens of captains. Among these people, Zi Chen was the most eye-catching. Other than the golden armor, there was also his cultivation level. In a situation where all 5 stars were cannon fodder, he, a 4-star, was a captain-level existence. Naturally, this would attract the attention of countless people. Lei Lan stood behind Zi Chen. She was also a 4-star, and she attracted a portion of the attention for Zi Chen. Behind Lei Lan was the team that Lei Wuxing had arranged for him. There were close to 300 of them. Among them, there were close to 100 6-star saint spirits while the rest were 5-star saint spirits. These nearly 100 6-star saint spirits were divided into teams of 10, each with their own 5-star saint spirits. It could be said that behind each captain, there were 10 small teams and 10 command flags, which represented that each person could control 10 regions. The teleportation formation in front of them lit up. At the same time, a strange vibration flew across the sky and into the space. This was the signal sent out by the various factions. Lei Wuxing said, "Everyone, it's time to go." Without too many words of encouragement, as the publicly acknowledged strongest person this time, he took the lead and stepped into the teleportation array. Lei Wushuang followed closely behind him and disappeared. Immediately afterward, the other captains led their respective teams and walked into the huge teleportation array. The same scene was playing out on the other 17 planets. Zi Chen did not go in immediately. Wearing the Immortal King armor, he looked back at his temporary subordinates and said, "Although we did not know each other before, as long as we step into this place, our goal is the same, and our interests will be linked. For the Holy Thunder Clan and for our own interests, I hope that everyone can do their best. We will follow your orders, my lord." These saint spirits, whose cultivation level was higher than Zi Chen, said in unison. After coming here, they had heard too many things about Zi Chen. Although Zi Chen was only a 4-star, he had killed many 6-stars. Even the Holy Star clan, which was also one of the 4 great sacred clans, had a powerful 6-stars killed by Zi Chen. And this time, when they heard that the leader was Zi Chen, and that Zi Chen was still wearing the Immortal King armor, many people were looking forward to this trip. Because this trip to the depths would be full of dangers, and death was inevitable, the Holy Thunder Clan also gave them great benefits. For example, after discovering resources, they could distribute them according to a certain proportion. It was like the share that Zi Chen got in this world, but they did not get as much. But it should be known that the world inside was bigger. Once a high-quality mineral vein was found, even if the share was divided into hundreds or thousands of pieces, getting one of them would still be an extremely huge number. Therefore, at this moment, everyone's hearts were connected. In other words, everyone's interests were connected. Zi Chen turned around and entered the teleportation formation. In a flash of light, the people he brought all crossed over to another planet that was forcibly broken open. When they arrived here, the expected battle did not break out, and there were no screams. The world was silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Zi Chen stood in the air and looked ahead. Lei Lan stood beside him. Behind the two of them was his team. Only a few miles away, there were other teams. Everyone stood there in silence. At the end of their vision, there was nothing. He released his spiritual senses and found that there was nothing in this world. It was like a flat world. Even the basic mountains and rivers did not appear. Everyone was stunned. There were many resources on the 18 planets in the periphery, but why was there nothing in the depths? Where was everyone? At least there should be someone, right? As far as the eye could see, it was empty. Just as everyone was stunned, a ray of light appeared in front of them. The ray of light suddenly appeared and turned into a person. It was a tall middle-aged man, wearing a snow-white robe, standing with his hands behind his back. The tens of thousands of holy spirits who came to this world were all looking at him at this moment. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "You're finally here. The owner of the 18 Immortal King armors can come to the Immortal City to receive the reward you deserve." Everyone looked at each other. Where was the Immortal City? I know why you're here. If you want to reach the place where the final reward is, you have to wear the immortal armors. But only the 18 immortal king armors can open the final reward. The holy spirits looked at each other, obviously not understanding what the middle-aged man said. I'll wait for you in the immortal city. Enjoy yourselves. With that, the middle-aged man disappeared into thin air. The surrounding space suddenly began to distort, as if the door to another world had opened. Countless rays of light surged out from it. All the rays of light instantly transformed into strange beasts, or immortal beasts. There were countless of them. Moreover, every immortal beast had a powerful aura, even more powerful than the ones in the periphery. As soon as these immortal beasts appeared, they attacked the holy spirits. Battle cries rang out in an instant. At the same time, the surrounding area also changed. Some places became towering mountains, some became sunken lands, some mountain ranges, rivers, lakes, and all kinds of dangerous places. It could be said that this was the true appearance of this place. Kill. Under the leadership of the captains, the holy spirits of the various factions charged at the immortal beasts. Chapter 35-55. The immortal beasts that had suddenly appeared were weaker than the holy spirits. However, there were so many of them that they could be said to be endless. As soon as the battle began, they had the absolute upper hand. Countless immortal beasts appeared around Zi Chen at the same time. Facing these immortal beasts, he shouted, "Form a defense formation in small groups. We must ensure everyone's safety." At this moment, Zi Chen was holding a divine spear and wearing a golden armor. The immortal beasts below him roared loudly. They were extremely eye-catching. The holy spirits behind him quickly began to form a defense formation. However, the immortal beasts had appeared so suddenly that the holy spirits did not have time to react. These immortal beasts had appeared all around them. Moreover, they were very powerful. They had caught the holy spirits off guard. The group behind Zi Chen quickly became chaotic. Noticing this, Zi Chen's holy talismans immediately flew out. They were all 4-star holy talismans and were heavenly saint arms. After they appeared, they flew toward the chaotic battlefield according to Zi Chen's instructions. Pa, pa, pa. The holy talismans shattered one after another. Then, they transformed into giant arms and swept forward. Although the heavenly saint arms were 4-star holy talisman masters, Fu Laro had clearly said that they were no weaker than 5-star holy talisman masters. Moreover, with the support of Zi Chen's unique soul, the heavenly saint arms' power had become even stronger. Bang! 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 The immortal beasts were directly sent flying. Their defense was amazing. Zi Chen's attacks did not hurt them, but they were able to send them flying. This bought some time for the holy spirits. In a short period of time, Zi Chen threw out nearly 50 heavenly saint arms. Only then did they resolve the crisis in the group. The 10 groups had all gathered and formed an effective defense. Then, they began to counterattack. Immortal beasts died one after another. Then, their bodies disappeared into thin air and turned into immortal stones of different sizes. The moment they saw those immortal stones, everyone's eyes lit up. At this moment, Zi Chen's voice rang out. "Fight with all your strength. As long as we are alive, we have plenty of resources." Lei Lan had been standing beside Zi Chen. She looked very nervous. In this place, she, who was only a 4-star cultivator, could not do anything to these immortal beasts. Zi Chen observed his surroundings as another holy talisman flew out in front of him. This time, it was a ghost spirit. The 3 sheets formed an array. 30 of them flew toward the nearby immortal beasts. The holy talisman shattered and turned into 3 little ghosts, which then entered the immortal beast's mind. In the next moment, the immortal beast began to roll over. Black light would occasionally shoot out from its head, and in just a moment, it was no longer breathing. Then, its body disappeared, leaving behind an immortal stone the size of a human head. This was the largest immortal stone in the core region so far. A palm-sized ball of soul light entered Zi Chen's sea of knowledge and strengthened his soul. The cries of the immortal beasts continued to echo in the air. After consuming 30 saint talismans, Zi Chen successfully killed 10 immortal beasts, leaving behind 10 head-sized immortal stones where they had died. Behind them, many saint spirits were shocked when they saw this scene. Many of them had heard of Zi Chen killing immortal beasts, but none of them had seen it with their own eyes. Now, it was an eye-opener for them. The next 51 ghost spirit holy talismans flew out in groups of 3 and flew toward the 17 immortal beasts. Without any accidents, the 17 immortal beasts died. These immortal beasts were much more powerful than those outside, but Zi Chen's ghost spirit holy talismans were also much more powerful. Facing the siege of all the immortal beasts, the power and drawbacks of the ghost spirit holy talismans were on full display. It was so powerful that it could kill an immortal beast with a 100% success rate and maximize its power. The drawback was that the number was limited. There were only 81 sheets at a time, and he had to redraw them after using them up. If he could use them endlessly, then in theory, Zi Chen could kill all the immortal beasts in an instant. After killing 27 immortal beasts, there were still other immortal beasts around. They all rushed toward Zi Chen, not giving him any time to redraw the talismans. Therefore, Zi Chen held the battle spear in his hand and charged forward. He began to mobilize the power around him. With the help of the immortal beast, he instantly arrived beside an immortal beast and stabbed forward with the battle spear in his hand. Poof! The immortal beast's head was pierced. It let out a scream and died. The dead immortal beast's body began to decompose into countless light spots, and then left behind an immortal stone. The size of this immortal stone was smaller than before, but it was still bigger than the others, perhaps because it was a one-hit kill. Lei Lan had been following behind Zi Chen and was responsible for picking up the immortal stones. At the moment, her perception was not of any use, because they did not even have a place to stand. Everyone was fighting bitterly, and it was even more impossible to plant a command flag. Poof! 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 Zi Chen's figure was like lightning, wandering among the immortal beasts and constantly stabbing. As the long spear passed, immortal beasts were killed one after another. Lei Lan followed behind, constantly picking up the spoils of war left behind by Zi Chen along the way. The saint spirits who were paying attention to the battle were all astonished by the terrifying destructive power of the attack. Wearing the immortal king armor and holding a battle spear, Zi Chen's lethality was indeed very terrifying, but now, he was also exhausted. Looking at the endless number of immortal beasts, he suddenly put away his battle spear and retreated. Lei Lan, come here. At the same time, he called Lei Lan back. If not for his protection, Lei Lan would probably be torn apart by the endless immortal beasts here in an instant. Lei Lan retreated to Zi Chen's side, and saw that Zi Chen immediately took out 9 defensive saint talismans and formed the 9 extreme defensive array. Stay inside and don't come out, Zi Chen said, and then began to form the seal. When he was forming the seal, he closed his eyes and a strange soul power spread out. Under such circumstances, Zi Chen's vision became clearer when he looked around. Vaguely, he seemed to have entered a strange state. As the seal fell, the sky suddenly lit up and lightning fell. The first lightning, which was close at hand, fell outside the defense and hit an immortal beast. The immortal beast's body was shining, and the light came from inside out as if it was a lightning beast. In the next moment, its vitality was extinguished and it died. An immortal stone the size of a human head floated in the air. Zi Chen still had his eyes closed. The second lightning fell from the sky and landed behind him. There was an immortal beast there that wanted to attack from behind. The lightning fell, but there was no earth-shattering sound, not even a terrifying fluctuation. It only caused a ripple. The second immortal beast died and turned into an immortal stone the size of a human head. Zi Chen used the lightning controlling technique to kill 2 immortal beasts consecutively, but he didn't use any energy. At this moment, a few more immortal beasts quickly pounced on Zi Chen. The sky lit up again. Chapter 3556. Ever since Zi Chen obtained the lightning controlling technique, he would use this technique to kill his enemies. This was also his most powerful trump card. However, when he obtained the holy lightning bone refining technique, the existence he met told him that he could try to use the lightning controlling technique to kill his enemies. Zi Chen did not understand at that time, but he did as he was told. Whenever he had the chance, he would use the lightning controlling technique to kill some low-level existences. All this time, the lightning controlling technique had not changed at all. Until last time, when he used the lightning controlling technique to kill several 5-star holy spirits in succession. At that time, the lightning controlling technique showed its power for the first time. Within the range of his spiritual senses, as long as he locked onto a person, a bolt of lightning would definitely fall from the sky. This time, facing many immortal beasts, Zichen used the lightning controlling technique again. Then, the lightning controlling technique showed a second change, and that was the number. There was no longer just one bolt of lightning that fell. A total of 5 bolts of lightning fell from the sky and landed around Zichen, hitting 5 immortal beasts respectively. These 5 immortal beasts were glowing all over as they floated in mid-air. Then, their vitality was extinguished, and they turned into crystals the size of a human head. The number of immortal beasts killed by the lightning controlling technique was actually the same as the Holy Spirit talisman. During this time, Zichen still had his eyes closed, and he was only controlling the lightning through his perception. After the 5 bolts of lightning, another 3 bolts fell, and the 3 immortal beasts nearby died. After the 3, there were 5 more. Lei Lan stood beside Zichen, looking at the scene outside the defensive talisman formation in shock. One after another, immortal beasts were struck by lightning and died. Not a single one was spared. However, in her perception, the power of these lightning bolts was not strong. There was not even a strong fluctuation, but they could easily kill these immortal beasts. In the sky, lightning flashed continuously. Around Zichen, immortal stones were floating one after another. They were all the size of a human head and emitted a strange light. Around them, many holy spirits from other teams were also looking sideways. After seeing so many high-quality immortal stones, they were all shocked. Of course, there were also many people who had greed in their eyes. Unfortunately, no one could step forward at this time, because there were many immortal beasts around everyone. Among them, a large portion of them were fighting for themselves. There were people like Zichen, who reacted extremely quickly and immediately ordered the team behind them to form a defensive line, but not many. By the time they realized that something was wrong and joined forces to defend, their losses were already not small. Big brother Hongtian, look over there. On the battlefield, Xiao Wu obtained a fist-sized immortal stone after killing one of the immortal beasts. He put away the immortal stone and turned his head to look into the distance. He saw the light that was constantly descending from the sky. What kind of lightning skill is that? How could he be so powerful? After fighting for so long, his aura hasn't been depleted at all? Xiao Wu was moved. At this time, they were a team of 7, and behind them was a group of people. These people were reinforcements from the Lei Zheng family. Since the bloodline ancestor had forbade the Lei Zheng family from interfering in this matter, Lei Zheng Hongtian took these people and landed on another planet. At this time, looking at the many high-quality immortal stones floating around Zichen, his face was very gloomy, and there was an unconcealable killing intent in his eyes. If it weren't for this damned guy, how could he have fallen into such a situation? At present, he was slightly struggling to deal with these immortal beasts, but Zichen was so relaxed. This was too strange. Lei Zheng Hongtian looked back at Xiao Wu and said, "Send a message to Hu Huanshan. We can't let that guy have it too easy." Xiao Wu nodded and then retreated. On the chaotic battlefield, there were countless immortal beasts. Only the place where Zichen was standing was empty. Dozens of immortal stones the size of a human head were floating around him. They were like light balls, bright and dazzling, illuminating the surroundings. Zichen still had his eyes closed. The talisman array formed by the holy talisman had not been attacked so far. Behind him, the holy spirits in the team looked at Zichen in shock. This battle prowess was really too strong. At this time, Zichen had entered a mysterious state. In this state, he felt invincible, as if he could control everything. Vaguely, he seemed to understand the true essence of the lightning controlling art. However, there seemed to be a layer of mist blocking him, making him unable to see the truth. Those immortal beasts no longer approached. Zichen's soul automatically extended and locked on to the target again. Thunder rumbled and lightning bolts fell. The sound was not loud, and the power did not feel strong. However, with each lightning bolt, an immortal beast died. At this moment, everyone who noticed this scene was very shocked. The lightning bolts were still extending. Zichen's thoughts changed a little. It seemed that he could vaguely see the true essence of the lightning controlling art. At this time, there was an arrogant soul aura in the range of his spiritual sense. He quickly rushed in, grabbed a head-sized immortal stone, and said coldly, "Zichen, you've crossed the line." His voice was very loud, like the thunder from the 9 heavens. It was very loud and clear. Waves of sound waves spread. Zichen withdrew his spiritual sense and opened his eyes. There was a look of confusion in his eyes, as if he was a little absent-minded. At this moment, there was more regret in his expression. Zichen did not know where this regret came from. The confusion in his eyes gradually disappeared, and his thoughts returned. The scene that had just happened flashed through his mind quickly. He knew the reason for his regret. Turning his head, Zichen's eyes flashed with a cold light, and countless murderous intent surged around him. At such a close distance, Lei Lan felt the murderous intent, and his body could not help but tremble. "Zichen, you've crossed the line. This is my territory." The one who spoke was Hu Huanshan. At this moment, there was a flag in front of him. Countless lightning bolts were released from the flag, covering an area of 10,000 feet. At this moment, the flag was still slowly expanding, extending towards this side. Within the range of the flag, Hu Huanshan was very pleased with himself as he collected the immortal stones that Zichen had dropped. "Damn it, that's clearly our spoils of war," Lei Lan said angrily when he saw this scene. Zichen removed the talisman array above his head, and then waved his sleeve. The floating immortal stones all around flew towards him. Zichen glanced at Hu Huanshan indifferently. The other party looked at Zichen provocatively, as if to say, "What can you do to me? Let's go." After collecting everything, Zichen motioned for Lei Lan to follow. At the same time, he also ordered the team behind him to retreat. Obviously, this place had been occupied by Hu Huanshan. In order to target him, the other party was willing to waste a flag. "Zichen, quickly come and help me take down the camp. Your team will be credited with a great merit." Chapter 3557. As the leader, Lei Wusheng's first priority was to ensure a safe and secure base. Only with a base would the Holy Spirits have a way out. Therefore, he and Lei Wushuang had been looking for a suitable place to set up camp from the start. Just as the two of them found a suitable campsite, not only were there many immortal beasts around, there were even immortals. There were 3 of them. All 3 were clad in armor and wielding weapons. Manipulating energy that was distinctly different from that of the Ling clan, they launched an attack. In the blink of an eye, several 6-star holy spirits were gravely injured. Many of them were core disciples. If not for Lei Wusheng and Lei Wushuang's timely rescue, this team of 6-star holy spirits might have been wiped out in an instant. 2 against 3 wasn't much of a problem, but the enemy's armor had an extremely strong defense. The 2 of them couldn't break through it in a short time. Therefore, Lei Wusheng ordered Zichen to come over. It was naturally easier for them to fight 3 against 3. Coincidentally, there was also a small incident on Zichen's side. "What's the meaning of this?" Lei Wushuang, who'd also noticed the commotion, asked coldly after sending an immortal flying with a punch. "They seem to be messing around, but everything is within the bounds of the rules." In the midst of battle, Lei Wusheng said coolly, "Even you and I aren't in a position to criticize each other. After all, that place belongs to us now." Lei Wushuang was exasperated. "That run-down place that no one occupies. These people are a disgrace to the Holy Thunder clan." Lei Wusheng didn't say anything, but there was a hint of coldness beneath his impassive expression. Clearly, he'd been angered by Hu Huanshan's actions. But as the leader, he could only suppress his anger as long as the other party didn't break the rules. Zichen had arrived. The moment he'd heard the summons, he'd flown in their direction. This time, Lei Lan didn't follow him, but was guarded by a group of experts behind him. They stared at Zichen's back, and their expressions were all very excited. This was because Lei Wusheng had mentioned the word contribution earlier. As long as they successfully took down the camp, their team would be able to obtain the first reward. The credit wasn't Zi Chen's alone, but the entire team's. How could they not be excited? The temporary leader said excitedly, "Everyone, advance slowly. Be careful and try to keep up with the leader's pace." At this point, Zi Chen had already reached the front and was about to meet the three immortals. Everyone was extremely excited. Based on the battle prowess Zi Chen had displayed, they were almost certain to obtain the first prize. However, Zi Chen, who had everyone's expectations, did not display his terrifying battle prowess and annihilate the enemy as everyone had expected. When he was still 1,000 feet away from the battlefield, he suddenly stopped and took out a blank holy talisman amidst the aftermath of the battle. There was also that holy pen called Unfathomable. What the hell? After seeing Zi Chen's action, everyone was stunned. Those who had been excited for Zi Chen were now dumbfounded. Why didn't the leader display his powerful means to kill the enemy? Was this the time to draw talismans? Zi Chen, who was wearing the Immortal King armor, was already the center of attention. His actions were also seen by many people. What a bunch of tricks. Leijing Hongtian sneered and said, "Tell Hu Huanshan that he did well. When we return, the Leijing family and the Hu family will naturally have business dealings. Also, he should continue to work hard. I will compensate him for the losses he suffered this time." On the other side, Hu Huanshan's face lit up when he heard the news. Being able to get closer to the Lei Zheng family was extremely important for the Hu family's future development. Compared to the future, losing some opportunities here was nothing. He turned around and said to the team behind him, "Everyone, hurry up and advance." The group of holy spirits behind them were stunned when they heard this. "Advance? What should we do, my lord?" It was obvious that Hu Huanshan had wasted a command flag. According to the original plan, they should take down this place and guard it. "We'll talk about it later. There's still a great opportunity waiting for us." After saying that, Hu Huanshan took the lead and rushed forward. "Zi Chen, what are you doing?" Lei Wushuang, who was in the middle of a battle, turned around to look at Zi Chen after defeating the enemy. Zi Chen said indifferently, "I'm drawing talismans. Didn't you see?" At this moment, a defensive barrier appeared above Zi Chen's head. He stood in the middle of the barrier and drew talismans on the holy talisman paper. The unfathomable holy talisman brush could greatly increase the success rate of drawing talismans. It was truly unpredictable. In addition to Zi Chen's unique soul and the ghost spirit holy talisman, Zi Chen was very relaxed. "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Lei Wushuang said unhappily. "As a holy talisman master, why didn't you prepare a battle holy talisman before coming here?" Zi Chen said indifferently, "You wouldn't understand even if I told you." "Impudent thief!" Lei Wushuang was enraged. She sent two enemies flying with 2 punches and was about to find trouble with Zi Chen. Unfortunately, her opponents quickly caught up. "This damn tortoise shell." Lei Wushuang couldn't help but curse, but her eyes were fixed on Zi Chen. It was unknown if she was indirectly insulting him. Or it could be a pun. Of course, Zi Chen wouldn't compete with her. If he wanted to win in a short time, he could only use the Ghost Spirit Divine Talisman. In the previous battle, he had used up all his Ghost Spirit Divine Talismans, so he needed to draw new ones. In contrast to Lei Wushuang's anger, Lei Wusheng's expression was much calmer. He looked at his opponent in front of him and said, "These defensive armors are really difficult to deal with. It should be good to wear one. Ant, how dare you covet my immortal armor? Die." His opponent's eyes flashed coldly as he slashed forward with the long saber in his hand. Kai. The saber light broke through the air with a powerful force. Lei Wusheng clenched his fist and punched out. Countless thunderbolts circled around his fist. The saber light exploded, and Lei Wusheng's figure retreated continuously. A strange expression appeared on his face. "Immortal saber slash." His opponent shouted again. Another saber light flashed between heaven and earth. This time, its power was even more terrifying. Lei Wusheng's expression was much more serious. "You have to hurry up. I think you'll be in big trouble if you delay any longer." Lei Wusheng suddenly spoke. Naturally, He was talking to Zi Chen. Boom. At the same time, he unleashed his full power and activated his strongest combat power. At this time, the sacred talisman array around Zi Chen disappeared. With 81 ghost spirit divine talismans floating in front of him, he said with a smile, "Give me one." Here. In a flash, Lei Wushuang appeared before an immortal race being. With a single punch, the immortal race being was sent flying towards Zi Chen. Chapter 3558. When Zi Chen saw his opponent flying back, the 81 ghost spirit sacred talismans in front of him immediately flew towards him. The 81 holy talismans were about to envelop his head. Who knew that at this moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly flew from behind, heading straight for Zi Chen's ghost spirit saint talisman. "Sir, I'm here to help you." It was Hu Huanshan. Although he came in the name of helping, the moment he attacked, he went straight for Zi Chen's ghost spirit sacred talismans. A saber light appeared between heaven and earth, leaving a clear mark in the air. It was about to tear apart the 81 holy talismans that Zi Chen had just completed. Facing such a situation, Zi Chen's expression didn't change. With a thought, the holy talismans shattered and 81 ghost spirits appeared, forming a holy talisman array and dancing in the air. The saber light approached and slashed at the ghost spirit array. "Oh no, I didn't see it. I thought Zi Chen hadn't made a move yet. I'm so sorry." Just as the saber light was about to land, Hu Huanshan's apologetic voice rang out. "It's okay. You can go back now," Zi Chen said indifferently, not pointing out his opponent's true intentions. When the saber light arrived, it directly pierced through the ghost spirit array and flew into the distance. The ghost spirit array wasn't damaged at all. It kept shrinking and headed towards the opponent's sea of consciousness. Because it was the second time he was controlling it, and the opponent was obviously not as strong as he was during the Immortal War, the ghost spirit array shrank very quickly. During this time, the opponent was rapidly dodging, trying to get rid of the ghost spirit array above his head. However, the ghost spirit array followed him like a shadow and couldn't be shaken off. "Get lost." The immortal roared and slashed at the sky with his immortal sword. He attacked again and again, but he couldn't hurt the ghost spirit array at all. Hu Huanshan stood in the distance. His expression turned ugly when he couldn't destroy Zi Chen's talisman array. However, he quickly revealed a smile and said, "Brother Zi Chen is really powerful. This holy talisman array can actually ignore defense. It seems like it's a soul attack." Zi Chen's eyes turned cold. The opponent directly pointed out the weakness of the ghost spirit array. His intentions were obvious. The Celestials naturally understood the meaning behind his words and prepared to use soul attacks. Lei Wushuang's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He was prepared to teach Hu Huanshan a lesson. Lei Wusheng slowly shook his head, stopping his little sister's actions. "Why? As the leader, can't you tell that he has ulterior motives?" Lei Wushuang asked through voice transmission. Clearly, he knew the severity of the matter and did not question loudly. "Don't interfere in this matter," Lei Wusheng said. "As a core member of the Extreme, you must take the interests of the Holy Thunder Clan as your responsibility. You must not participate in the conflicts of other clans." But he's causing trouble. It's obvious that he's affecting the interests of the Holy Thunder Clan. Unparalleled Thunder transmitted his voice, unconvinced. The main cause of this matter is still the family conflict. Even if there is a conviction, it should be after the war, not now. Lei Wusheng transmitted his voice. Besides, it's just a reminder. With Zi Chen's strength, he shouldn't be helpless. Just as the two of them were transmitting their voices, Zi Chen rode on the immortal beast and flew forward, arriving in front of the Celestial. He jumped down from the immortal beast's back. The immortal beast turned into a ray of light and disappeared. He punched forward. Dazzling lightning light was released from his fist, and a powerful aura surged. The Celestial naturally recognized the immortal King armor. He said coldly, "You came at the right time. It's time for this Celestial to change my armor." As soon as he finished speaking, the fist light arrived. There was a loud boom. The Celestial's body flew backward. Zi Chen, who was wearing the immortal King armor, was no longer as strong as before. The Celestial found it difficult to block, let alone take the initiative to attack. After one punch, another punch. Booms sounded continuously, and the celestial was constantly pushed back. Above his head, 81 ghostly spirits followed him like shadows. They were still shrinking. After 8 punches in a row, the ghost spirits disappeared into the celestial's sea of consciousness. The celestial felt a strong threat of death. The aura around him became violent. He wanted to kill Zichen forcibly before his soul was destroyed. Zichen punched again. Boom. The celestial was defeated and flew backward, coughing up blood. In the next moment, his soul was destroyed. This was the first time Lei Wuxing and Lei Wuxuang saw Zichen destroy an enemy with their own eyes. They didn't expect him to be so fast. One had to know that the two of them had not broken through the defense of the immortal armor until now. The celestial died. This time, he didn't leave behind an immortal stone, but a complete immortal armor. Although the grade of this armor was not as good as the immortal king armor on Zichen, it was still extremely extraordinary. Zichen went forward and put it away. He turned to Lei Wuxing and asked, "Do you need help?" "No need. We can still deal with one person." Before Lei Wuxing could reply, Lei Wuxuang said unhappily. Her eyebrows were furrowed, and her pretty face showed anger. She reached out and pointed at her forehead. A surge of soul energy surged out, bringing with it a bolt of lightning. With the appearance of this bolt of lightning, there was an indescribable feeling in the air, as if someone had sighed. This was the Thunder Soul's sigh, a soul technique that Lei Wuxuang had mastered. When Lei Wuxing saw this, he shook his head. His little sister's competitive nature had not changed. However, it was indeed time for him to use his full strength. A saber flew out from his forehead. It was only half a saber, but it emitted an ancient aura as it flew forward. This was the saint's spiritual weapon that he had obtained after a narrow escape. Unlike those offensive weapons, this was a pure soul weapon that only destroyed souls. It was powerful, but the only downside was that it consumed too much of his soul. Every time he used it, he would be weakened for a period of time. Now that Zichen had dealt with his opponent and had nothing to worry about, he could use it without any worries. Zichen had just kept the immortal armor when the siblings each displayed their strongest moves. The next two immortals were killed in an instant. Zichen was a little stunned. Lei Wuxuang, who was clearly weakened, glared at Zichen and said, "You really think we can't deal with our opponents?" She took the immortal armor and started refining it on the spot. The broken soul weapon flew back to Lei Wuxing's side and disappeared. Lei Wuxing, who was even weaker than his sister, nodded at Zichen and started refining the immortal armor as well. Due to the terrifying shockwaves from the previous battle, no immortal beasts could get close. Looking at the weakened duo, Zichen said, "This mission is considered completed, right?" "You've done well," Lei Wuxing said. Zichen nodded and said, "In that case, I'll go deeper." "Be careful," Lei Wuxing reminded. "You too. Immortal stones can replenish energy. It's not good to be weak here." With that, Zichen left behind 2 head-sized immortal stones that he had obtained earlier. Chapter 3559. Zichen left 2 pieces of high-quality immortal stones, one for each of them. Lei Wuxing did not refuse this kindness and gave one to Lei Wuxuang. The other party snorted coldly, as if he was dissatisfied that Zichen had taken all the limelight. "Hurry up and refine it. If we consume too much energy, it will be detrimental to the whole tribe." Lei Wuxing ordered, "In this place, we can't consume too much energy." Lei Wuxuang was even more dissatisfied because Zichen had left as if nothing had happened after killing the enemy, while their 2 powerful leaders had consumed a lot of energy and still needed to recover. It seemed that Zichen was more powerful than the 2 of them. "Don't think too much. His Saint Talisman is very unique and he is also a Saint Talisman master. Naturally, he has an advantage over us." Lei Wuxing knew what his little sister was thinking and smiled faintly as he comforted her. Zichen handed the immortal armor to Lei Lan. With the immortal armor, regardless of whether Lei Lan could kill the enemy or not, she would be able to defend herself. Even if there was danger, Lei Lan would be able to withstand it. Moreover, Whether they would be able to make a great contribution depended on how sharp Lei Lan's senses were. At this time, the other factions were also flying forward. Up until now, other than the camps that they had set up, no one had put down the flag. Hu Huanshan was the first to waste it. His failure to stop Zi Chen made Hu Huanshan's face a little gloomy. Therefore, after Zi Chen went deeper, he led the team and followed. "That guy who ruined everything is still behind us," Lei Lan said in a low voice. Zi Chen had already noticed Hu Huanshan, but it was not the time to fight him, so he did not pay attention to him. However, he knew very well what the other party was planning, and the corner of his mouth could not help but curl into a cold smile. "Since you are courting death, don't blame me for being impolite." Zi Chen's eyes flashed coldly. Zi Chen walked at the front of the team, fighting fiercely with the immortal beasts that appeared from time to time. As they went deeper, the number of immortal beasts decreased significantly. Following behind him, Lei Lan released her spiritual senses and used her special perception to sense the places where there might be something strange. During this time, they never set down the command flag. At the same time, Hu Huanshan, who had been following behind with his team, never dropped the command flag. After advancing for nearly 10,000 li, Lei Lan suddenly stopped. She looked at Zi Chen and said, "I think this place is not bad." Zi Chen nodded and a flag appeared in his hand. Who knew that at this moment, a loud and clear voice came from behind. "Haha, this is a good place. We'll drop the flag here." It was Hu Huanshan. He decisively put down the flag. Then, the flag began to emit light. Lightning surged out like a protective barrier. In the blink of an eye, it spread to 100 miles away and enveloped Zi Chen's location. "Haha, Zi Chen, I'm sorry, but this place caught my eye first." Hu Huanshan's laughter rang out again. In Zi Chen's team, many people turned around and stared coldly at Hu Huanshan. This guy was obviously doing it on purpose. Zi Chen glanced at him indifferently and said, "Let's go." Everyone continued to move forward. Hu Huanshan's flag covered an area of 200 li. After moving forward for another few hundred li, Lei Lan pointed at the ground and said, "There might be resources here that aren't any weaker than before." "Are you sure?" Zi Chen asked. "Of course." Lei Lan nodded. This time, before Zi Chen took out the flag, Hu Huanshan's laughter rang out again from behind. A new flag fell on the ground, and the light spread in this direction. Lei Lan turned around and glared at Hu Huanshan. "Hu Huanshan, you've gone too far." Hu Huanshan's smile did not fade. "Gone too far? Why don't I think so? I'm contributing to the Holy Thunder clan. Who told you not to come to a conclusion earlier?" Zi Chen said coldly, once, twice. "I don't want a third time. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Hu Huanshan patted his chest and said, "Aya, I'm so scared." "What, you still dare to attack me?" "Zi Chen, it's not that I want to criticize you, but in terms of contributions to the Holy Thunder clan, you're far inferior to me this time. Didn't you just help my lord build the camp? I'm the one who occupied 3 resource lands for the Holy Thunder clan. You're courting death." Zi Chen's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The faces of the holy spirits who followed Zi Chen were incomparably ashen. Lei Lan pulled the furious Zi Chen and said, "Let's go. There must be other resource lands in the depth." Zi Chen's anger was still difficult to quell, but it was obviously impossible to kill the other party just like that. He snorted coldly and said indifferently, "Very good. But can you guarantee that there's really good stuff in there?" After saying that, Zi Chen smiled coldly and turned to leave. The complacent look on Hu Huanshan's face froze. Of course, he didn't know how to perceive, nor did he know whether these places were good or bad. Everything was because he heard the message. But soon, a smile appeared on his face. Because in the message that just came, Zi Chen was cursing, and his face was very ugly. The holy spirits in his troop were all dejected. Who didn't know that the reason why Zi Chen chose the smallest planet was not because the guardian there was weak, but because there were more resources in that world. And so many resources were all thanks to Lei Lan. While moving forward, Lei Lan looked at Zi Chen and said helplessly, "They're following us. What should we do?" The anger on Zi Chen's face didn't dissipate for a long time. he said coldly. Let's speed up and go deeper. Leave them far behind. This stinking bug is really despicable. The team naturally sped up, but Hu Huanshan also sped up and followed behind. Change direction, Zichen said. The team began to change direction, and the other party also changed direction. This repeated several times, and Hu Huanshan was like a tail, following behind them. During this time, Zichen had 2 opportunities to plant the flag, but Hu Huanshan beat him to it. This made Zichen so angry that he gritted his teeth. Haha, what a coincidence. I found another good place. Hu Huanshan laughed loudly and used the 6th flag. The flag lit up and instantly covered an area of hundreds of miles. 6 flags meant that they occupied 6 areas. How could Hu Huanshan not be happy? Zichen, we're really fated. Hu Huanshan was really proud because these places were chosen by Lei Lan. Even if they were half real and half fake, his harvest this time was big enough. Zichen, who was originally angry, turned to look at Hu Huanshan. This time, he wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, Indeed, we're fated. As Zichen's voice fell, a 5-star Holy Spirit, who seemed to have fallen behind because Zichen was in a hurry, took out a flag and planted it on the ground. Buzz. Chapter 3560. Looking at the smile on Zichen's face, Hu Huanshan couldn't smile anymore. He had a bad feeling in his heart. At that moment, his soul sensed what was happening 1,000 miles away. A 5-star Holy Spirit had inserted a command flag into the ground. The command flag began to glow, enveloping the entire area. Sensing this, Hu Huanshan sneered and said, It seems like you're not that stupid. You've already prepared for this. Why? Is that the good location you've set your eyes on? Haha, but it just so happens that I have a command flag here. Hu Huanshan turned around and was about to rush in that direction. He was only 1,000 miles away from that place. For a 6-star Holy Spirit, this distance was nothing. As long as he inserted the command flag there, he would definitely gain something. Even if he couldn't eat meat, he believed that he could still drink some soup. However, just as he was about to move, he stopped. This was because at the same time, another command flag lit up. There were a total of 4 command flags, which occupied 1,000 miles of that area. The area covered by the command flag's light was 100 miles away from Hu Huanshan's territory. Seeing this, Hu Huanshan's face became extremely ugly. Clearly, Zichen had already prepared for this. In an instant, that area was sealed off. Let's go. We'll go back and guard that area. Zichen led his people and started to return. Previously, Hu Huanshan had used the rules to suppress him. Now, he would use the same rules to suppress him. When the other Holy Spirits saw the smile on Zichen's face, they naturally knew that they had succeeded this time. Moreover, since Zichen wanted to go back and guard it himself, it was obvious that that area was a good location with real resources. When he brushed past Hu Huanshan, Zichen said with a smile, I still have 6 command flags. Guess where I'll put them next? Hu Huanshan said coldly, Don't be so smug. According to the rules, you have to guard it for an entire day. If the area you occupy is forcefully taken down, it will belong to someone else. Of course, Zichen knew this rule. He continued to smile and said, What if I persist? Me. We'll talk about it after you persist. The 2 parted ways. In the other 3 directions, Lei Lan's 3 avatars disappeared one after another after inserting the command flags. There was an unconcealable joy on the face of the real Lei Lan. Zichen transmitted a message to the real Lei Lan, telling him to keep a low profile and not let others see any flaws. Zichen had long guessed that Hu Huanshan's men were in this team, so he deliberately put on a show with Lei Lan. In the process of acting, not only did she continuously consume Hu Huanshan's command flags, but Lei Lan could also better search for places with special resources. It could be said that even if there were resources underground in the places that Hu Huanshan occupied, they wouldn't be any better. Not only did he come here for nothing, but so did the group of holy spirits behind him. Even though the majority of those people were from the Hu clan, there were still many people from other clans. They had only come for the sake of benefits. However, after following Hu Huanshan this time, they had gained nothing. Naturally, There would be resentment in their hearts. After arriving at the area that they occupied, Zichen signaled for the team to disperse. For the rest of the day, everyone had to defend this place. After a day, if they defended this place, it would become the territory of the Holy Thunder Clan forever. What's down there? Zichen tried to use his spiritual thoughts to sense, but found nothing, so he asked. Lei Lan shook her head and said, I don't know, but there must be something good. Zichen said, is it possible that it's a soul-gathering crystal lode? Lei Lan glanced at him and said, what are you thinking about? The soul power that a soul-gathering crystal can attract is very considerable. If a lode appears there, even a fool can see it. Zichen said, so, if we find the right place, it will be very easy to find the lode. It's very easy if there is no special seal, but if there is a special seal, it's a different story. Lei Lan said, by the way, how are you going to defend next? First, ask for help. Zichen smiled slightly, seeming to have a well-thought-out plan. Ask for help from whom? Lei Lan asked in confusion. Hu Huanshan. Zichen waved his hand, and a 5-star Holy Spirit came over. Sir, what can I do for you? Go to Hu Huanshan and tell him we need his help, Zichen ordered. Ah! The 5-star Holy Spirit was stunned. Weren't they in conflict? Why should he ask for help from the enemy? Go. By the way, tell him that if he succeeds, we're willing to give him some shares. But the premise is that he must lead his team and come here to defend this place now. Seeing that Zichen didn't seem to be joking, the 5-star Holy Spirit still didn't quite understand Zichen's idea. He could only go to Hu Huanshan and tell him what his lord meant. Hu Huanshan looked at the person and said coldly, what did you say? Say it again. My lord said he needs your help. If you are willing, you can go now. Once it's done, my lord will give you some shares. The 5-star Holy Spirit clearly conveyed Zichen's meaning. How much is some shares? Hu Huanshan suppressed his anger and asked. My lord didn't say. I guess it's just some. The 5-star Holy Spirit thought for a moment and said. Scram, scram. Hu Huanshan was so angry that his body was about to spit fire. Scram now. So you're saying you refuse? The 5-star Holy Spirit asked. He was obviously a stubborn person and needed a clear answer. Go tell that idiot Zichen that even if I, Hu Huanshan, don't get anything, I will never help him. Tell him to give up, and then get the hell out of here. Hu Huanshan was flustered and exasperated. Zichen, you little brat, you've gone too far. The 5-star Holy Spirit left. He was just a messenger anyway. In fact, he still didn't understand why his lord wanted him to say this. He knew that the other party wouldn't agree. Could it be that his lord doesn't like me and found this excuse to get me scolded? As soon as this thought appeared, it was dispelled. A lord who could kill a 6-star Holy Spirit wouldn't be so bored. What an idiot. You want to rope me in with just some shares? Let me tell you, I, Hu Huanshan, want that place. After the 5-star Holy Spirit left, the anger on Hu Huanshan's face disappeared in an instant. Then, a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. After you lose that place, I'll get back at you. In his mind, he had already sketched out a beautiful picture. However, Hu Huanshan came too late and didn't know that Lei Hongtian had already sketched out the same picture, but it didn't come true. Tell them that they can act now. Hu Huanshan gave the final order. Then, it was time for that beautiful picture to come true. The 5-star Holy Spirit returned with the news. Zichen patted him on the shoulder and said, well done. Remember to add one more contribution. The 5-star Holy Spirit's eyes lit up, and he became excited. After being scolded by Hu Huanshan, he got one more contribution. Right now, he even had an impulse to go back and let Hu Huanshan scold him a few more times. Zichen looked ahead, his expression turning cold. Chapter 3561. The first wave of enemies were immortal beasts. There were many of them, and they were charging in this direction. It was as if they were being deliberately driven away or attracted by some kind of aura. There was no need for Zichen to say anything. Everyone was ready for battle. Zichen stood in the core area and closed his eyes. He extended his spiritual senses and was able to monitor any place in this area. Then, he began to form seals. As the seals fell, a strange wave was emitted from Zichen's body. Lei Lan, wearing immortal armor, stood beside Zichen to protect him. The immortal beasts rushed forward, and a defensive battle broke out. Zichen's soul was looking everywhere. Once someone was in danger, a bolt of lightning would descend from the sky to save them. It was the lightning manipulation technique. Between heaven and earth, light would appear from time to time. At this moment, outside the chaotic battlefield, teams came one after another and were watching from afar. Among them was Lei Hongtian, who led a group of powerhouses. He looked ahead with cold eyes. This time, there must be no mistakes. He exhorted. Xiao Wu, who was next to him, nodded. Don't worry. The news has already spread. Everyone knows the value of the area occupied by Zichen. Those forces knew that there was a great opportunity and have already made preparations. Also, I investigated in advance. Except for Hu Huanshan, there are no other forces of the Holy Thunder Clan. So, Zichen won't have any reinforcements in a short time. That's good. Now, we'll go first. You stay here and see which force took down this place. When the time comes, send a message to attack. Lei Hongtian left with his men. Not long after, Hu Huanshan, who was in the other direction, also left with his men after receiving the news. He had to leave quickly to avoid being punished for not helping. As for the area he occupied previously, no one attacked because there was no corresponding defense there. Obviously, there was nothing good there. Thinking of this, Hu Huanshan's heart was filled with endless killing intent. That damned Zichen had been scheming against him all this time. The number of immortal beasts in the first wave was not small. There were close to 1,000 of them. However, everyone had already received Zichen's orders. They did not need to deliberately defend at the borders. They could retreat as they fought. Thus, the group took their time and cooperated well with each other. It was quite easy for them to fight back. During this period of time, Zichen continued to provide assistance. The lightning that occasionally struck down gave everyone a lot of confidence. Apart from some holy spirits who were injured, no one died. As for the injured, they immediately retreated to the rear and swallowed pills to heal their injuries. Before coming here, they had already made preparations. It took a full 4 hours before the several hundred immortal beasts were all killed. Tens of sacred spirits were injured, but their injuries were not too serious. Their energy consumption was still acceptable. Zichen opened his eyes and said, "Those who have used up a lot of energy, go pick up the spoils. Those who are weak will recover immediately. I guarantee that you will be at your peak." Under normal circumstances, those who consumed less energy would clean up the battlefield while those who consumed more energy would immediately recover. This way, they would still have the strength to fight when the time came. However, this time, no one in the entire team died because of the lightning that fell at that time. Therefore, they were very confident in Zichen. Then, Zichen began to draw talismans. It was the Ghost Spirit Saint Talisman. As he was drawing talismans, Zichen suddenly thought of a problem. His heart moved, and he said, "Those who are good at using their fists to attack, quickly come here and get a saint talisman." All the holy spirits were stunned. At their level, who didn't know how to use fists? Zichen said again, "Those who are confident that they can use their fists to injure the enemy, come here and get a saint talisman. Those who are confident that they can kill the enemy with their fists, come here and get 2. Although the Heavenly Saint Arm was a 4-star Saint Talisman, its effect was not weaker than a 5-star Saint Talisman. Its supporting effect was also very powerful. This time, Zichen had prepared many of them. After the group of holy spirits looked at each other, they stood up one after another and walked towards the center of the area where Zichen was. There were about 30 of them. The number of people was less than expected, so Zichen decided to give each of them 3 talismans. At the same time, he told them how to use the Heavenly Saint Arm. Not giving them much time to breathe, just as Zichen quickly finished drawing 81 Ghost Spirit Saint Talismans, the enemy came. This time, it was not immortal beasts, but the spiritual tribe. After putting away the Ghost Spirit Saint Talismans, Zichen looked into the distance. There were many enemies. Chen said in a deep voice, "Retreat into the area. Once the enemy enters our area, kill them without mercy." Everyone was ready for battle. Those who had consumed a lot of energy stayed at the back and slowly recovered. Chen's figure rose into the air, the immortal king armor on his body shining brightly. "I am Chen from the Holy Thunder Clan. This area has been occupied by the Holy Thunder Clan. I am warning you to retreat quickly. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy." Chen's voice resounded in the area. No one paid attention to him. Everyone was moving forward. Chen's voice rang out again. He said it 3 times in a row. Obviously, this was a warning. Then, Chen waved his hand again, and the people in his team retreated again. A light appeared under Chen's body, and the immortal beast appeared. At the same time, a war spear appeared in his hand. There were enemies in all directions, and their numbers far exceeded that of Chen's team. Obviously, many forces had joined forces. They did not have the slightest hesitation and directly broke into the area occupied by Chen. "Kill them without mercy." Chen's cold voice resounded in the area. Then, as if he had turned into a lightning bolt, he charged in one direction. "Everyone, it's time for life and death. For the Holy Thunder Clan, and for ourselves, let's fight." Chen, who was charging forward, was attacked by many spiritual weapons. His figure did not stop at all, and he continued to move forward. He didn't even try to dodge ordinary attacks. Only when he felt threatened would he use extreme speed to dodge. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the crowd and shouted, "Spear 9. He thrust his spear forward, and it instantly turned into 9. The 9 spear lights were real, and they surged with a terrifying aura as they rushed into the crowd. There was no need to aim at all. The 9 Holy Spirits' bodies were pierced one after another. The lighter ones were seriously injured, and the heavier ones were killed. After the spear, Chen's figure dodged. During this time, several attacks still landed on his body, but they were blocked by the immortal king armor. The second attack was still spear 9. He successfully killed 9 people. However, there were too many enemies. Even if Chen continued to kill like this, it would take a long time. Under such circumstances, his people were bound to be seriously injured. Capture the leader first. Chapter 3562. With this thought in mind, Chen decided to take action. He released his spiritual senses, but he could not find out which one was the leader. Obviously, the leader of the team had guessed that Chen would do this before he came here, so he hid himself. Realizing that there was no leader to kill, Chen took a deep breath. Then, he would kill them one by one. It was not easy for the people from the other forces to come here. Killing one meant one less. Chen did not believe that they would dare to let everyone die here because of this place. "Everyone, focus on defense." Chen's voice reverberated throughout the area as he charged forward. Riding on the immortal beast, his speed was even faster. In an instant, he arrived in front of a 6-star Holy Spirit and stabbed with his spear. During this time, there were 2 attacks that went straight for Chen. However, Chen did not dodge, and his spear did not slow down at all. Poof! The spear pierced through a 6-star Holy Spirit's body, and a powerful force poured into his body, destroying his life force. In the next moment, Chen, who had 2 white marks on his body, pulled out his spear and attacked the second 6-star Holy Spirit. Right now, he only wanted to kill 6-star Holy Spirit. In the blink of an eye, several 6-star Holy Spirits were killed. However, more people had already rushed into the central area and fought with Chen's team. A battle that was even more tragic than the previous one took place again. Chen's combat power was very strong, but he was only one person. When he could not protect his subordinates, they were injured or killed. However, among them, there were some who were eye-catching. Those were the powerhouses who had activated their heavenly saint arms. Their fists were even more terrifying. Their fists that could have injured their enemies severely were now able to kill them directly. Their attacks that could have killed their enemies were now even more terrifying with the help of their heavenly saint arms. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. While he was dodging and killing his enemies, Chen was also surrounded by many 6-star Holy Spirits. The immortal beast he was riding on was pierced many times, and its speed gradually decreased. After a few breaths of time, the immortal beast was heavily injured. It turned into a beam of light and disappeared. Without the immortal beasts, Chen kept his battle spear and a devil blade appeared in his hand. At the same time, a heavenly saint arm flew out and entered his right arm. Wang. The demonic saber trembled as Chen drew his saber. A bright saber light drew a huge arc as it chopped forward. Naturally, he would not hold back. With the celestial king armor, saint bones, and heavenly energy saint arms, the two six-star saint spirits nearby were sliced in half at the waist. Several people nearby were also sent flying, suffering varying degrees of injuries. It could be said that Chen's killing power was extremely strong. Right now, he was even willing to consume his energy to kill the enemy in front of him. At this moment, the leaders of the various groups had gathered outside the battlefield. This time, they did not truly participate in the battle. Among the dozen of them, one of them looked extremely pale. This was because Chen had coincidentally chosen their group as the target to kill. Old cow, don't be angry. As we have agreed before, even if all of your people die in the battle, we will still give you the biggest share of the opportunity. In addition, after we enter the depths, we will also allocate some people to you. Next to him, a person comforted him. The others also nodded. Of course, everyone was aware of Chen's combat strength. Therefore, before they entered the battlefield, they had discussed in advance that no matter which force Chen attacked, they would not retreat at the last minute because of the heavy losses. There will come a time when his strength is exhausted. At that time, we might be able to kill him and obtain the celestial king armor. Another leader in the crowd said, "Everyone, don't forget the real function of the celestial king armor. What we need to do now is to guard against Chen decisively abandoning this place and escaping after consuming too much energy." The six-star leader named Old Cow said, "Don't worry, our people have already arranged for the surroundings. No matter which direction Chen runs in, there will be powerhouses to stop him." At this moment, in a relatively distant place, Hu Huanshan's people and Lei Hongtian's people had joined forces. They could not see what was happening on the battlefield. Lei Hongtian asked, "What's the situation now?" Hu Huanshan said with a smile, "Besieged by many forces, we have suffered heavy losses. Judging from the current situation, it is only a matter of time before we lose that area." Then, hesitation appeared on Hu Huanshan's face. He said, "Chen's killing power is indeed strong. He can actually kill a six-star holy spirit in an instant. However, he has consumed a lot of energy and should not be able to hold on for too long." Lei Hongtian sneered when he heard that. No matter how strong a person is, he can't be compared with a team. This time, I want to see how he can break out of this situation. In the end, don't lose the flag territory and his life at the same time. Hu Huanshan said with a smile, "According to that guy's greedy character, he will not be willing to leave until he kills to the end. Those forces must have already spread a big net, waiting for him to break out." Chen did not know that there were people outside waiting for him to escape because he had never thought of escaping. More than 26-star holy spirits had already died under his demonic saber. If it were any other time, these people would have been scared out of their wits. However, this was not the case this time. Each and every one of them were fearless. Under such circumstances, Chen's individual battle prowess was extremely insignificant. His men had suffered extremely heavy casualties. If this continued, what awaited him was definitely losing the area, and everyone on the battlefield would die in battle. They had come here for the opportunity. They couldn't just walk here and go back home directly. He had to think of a way to break out of this situation. However, at present, with his many powerful means, they could only be of great use in a one-on-one situation. In this kind of group battle, they were helpless. Was he going to lose just like that? Chen was full of unwillingness. He would not forget the excited expressions of those people when they saw him earlier. Obviously, everyone thought that following him would be able to gain great benefits and make great contributions. Naturally, they were full of confidence in Chen. At present, no matter how badly injured they were still fighting bravely without flinching until they died in battle. Looking at everyone who was not afraid of death, how could Zi Chen bear to let them rejoice in vain and gain nothing? However, how could he break out of this situation? At this critical moment, a bright light suddenly flashed through his mind, as if a dense fog was spreading. A holy talisman that he had been comprehending for a long time but had not made any progress appeared in his mind. Roar of thunder's fury. I did not succeed before. Perhaps there was a problem with my way of thinking. What if I try to comprehend it in a different way? The light flashed in his mind, and Zi Chen's figure suddenly shot up into the sky. He abandoned all his enemies. Is he running away? Many people's eyes lit up, and they immediately sent a message to their leader. Standing in the air, a blank holy talisman paper appeared in front of Zi Chen, and a holy talisman brush appeared in his hand. The talisman paper was 4-star. Chapter 3563. Of course, Zi Chen wouldn't run away. He couldn't abandon these people who trusted him so much. In his mind, the Raging Thunder talisman appeared. He had been studying this talisman for a long time, but he hadn't been able to learn it. Now that everyone was in danger, he decided to use a different method. The tip of the brush glowed, and Zi Chen started to write. However, as soon as he started to write, the talisman shattered. He had failed. Zi Chen wasn't upset. Instead, there was a hint of joy in his eyes. Previously, he hadn't even been able to write. Now that he was able to put pen to paper, it meant that he had a flash of inspiration earlier. His method was indeed correct. The Raging Thunder talisman from the Lei Jing family wasn't a powerful offensive skill, but a supportive skill. It was like the heavenly energy saint arm, but there were some differences. Below, many saint spirits looked at Zi Chen in confusion. They didn't understand what he was doing. Zi Chen's saint talisman master level was already on par with them. This was already impressive. However, he was still a 4-star saint. Under such circumstances, even if he could write a shocking talisman, it would only be a grade 4 saint. Under such circumstances, how could he expect a grade 4 saint talisman to turn the tables? That was impossible. The weakest among them was a 5-star saint spirit. An ordinary grade 4 saint talisman wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Lei Lan, who was on the battlefield, couldn't understand Zi Chen's actions. Only a 7-star saint talisman master or above could change one's fate with a saint talisman master. Haha, your leader can't hold on any longer. He's preparing to write a talisman and escape. Is this a teleportation talisman? Just as everyone noticed Zi Chen's actions, mocking laughter could be heard from the crowd. Obviously, this statement had received a great deal of approval. Get ready. Zi Chen is preparing to use a teleportation talisman to escape. Get ready to capture him. At the outermost perimeter, the group of leaders had already made their next move. Haha, Zi Chen can't hold on any longer. He's going to escape. Everyone's hearts are scattered. When Hu Huanshan saw the message from his subordinate, he smiled proudly. Zi Chen, I didn't think that you would have such a day. Lei Jing Hongtian also laughed, his face full of pride. Zi Chen was still drawing talismans and retreating. However, the number of strokes he made increased with each stroke. Faced with the mockery from all around, as well as the gradual loss of morale on his side, he did not make any response. Because he had to concentrate on drawing talismans. The furious roar of thunder was even harder to comprehend than the ghost spirit. It was definitely extraordinary. Once he was distracted, he would definitely fail. Hold on, everyone. Zi Chen will never abandon us and leave on his own. Although Lei Lan didn't understand Zi Chen's actions, she still shouted loudly, hoping to increase her popularity. If he wasn't planning on abandoning us, why didn't he continue to fight? Why did he draw talismans instead? Someone suddenly questioned. It was a 5-star holy spirit from the Holy Thunder clan. He must be preparing something. Lei Lan said anxiously. Prepare a backup plan? A mere holy talisman? Another voice sounded. He's only a 4-star holy spirit. Can a mere holy talisman save us? However, a teleportation array can save his life. Nonsense. Zi Chen is not that kind of person. Lei Lan was furious. Whether it's nonsense or not, everyone knows in their hearts. I say, everyone, he wants us to fight to the death here, but he wants to escape. Why should we follow such a person? Someone in the crowd spoke again. This time, it was not a 5-star Holy Spirit, but a 6-star Holy Spirit. Their already low morale became even lower because of the few words spoken by the crowd. The original battle also stopped at that moment. Because their leader was about to escape, what was the point of continuing to fight? The Holy Spirits of other forces on the periphery looked at them mockingly. So what if the Holy Thunder Clan was one of the 4 great holy clans? Didn't they lose all their morale after being beaten by us? Everyone, what's the point of our battle? Fighting for a person who's about to escape? A 6-star Holy Spirit walked out and said, "This time, we've already suffered heavy losses. Are we going to be wiped out? Stop, let's end this meaningless battle." Turner, shut up. We're from the Holy Thunder Clan. We can only fight to the death. We can't retreat. A 6-star Holy Spirit said angrily, "You want us to admit defeat? Absolutely impossible. Lay by, no one is afraid of death. None of us from the Holy Thunder Clan are afraid of death. But our deaths have to be worth it." The 6-star Holy Spirit named Turner said, "We have to die with dignity. We have to fight to the death with those immortals, not with these people. More so, we can't die for Zi Chen. Because he's planning to abandon us and escape. He's a coward." At that moment, everyone's attention was on the internal conflict of the Holy Thunder Clan. On the other hand, not many people were paying attention to Zi Chen. Because if he wanted to escape, no one could stop him. Moreover, his true opponent was also in the periphery, not here. Many people even hoped that Zi Chen would leave as soon as possible. Everyone had a mocking look on their faces. Through this battle, the legend of the Holy Thunder Clan had undoubtedly been shattered. Regardless of whether it's worth it or not, I'll never surrender. Because I'm from the Holy Thunder Clan. We have integrity. We can only fight to the death. We'll never retreat. The 6-star Holy Spirit named Lei Bai said indifferently, "Everyone, this is the last battle. Who's going to follow me?" "Me. Me too. Regardless of whether we should fight this battle or not, since we've already fought, we'll never retreat. We were born as members of the Holy Thunder Clan. Even if we die, we'll still be the souls of the Holy Thunder Clan." There were quite a few Holy Spirits who agreed. They then walked forward, their expressions resolute. Especially Lei Bai, who had been fighting a bloody battle earlier and had consumed a lot of energy. But now, he took the initiative to walk forward. This was considered to be a generous death. It was just that when he walked forward, he had an illusion that his steps were much lighter. Could it be because I'm a generous death? Even my condition seems to be better. Lei Bai took a deep breath. Since my potential has been stimulated before I die, then I'll fight to the death. But this time, when his voice fell, no one agreed. Instead, there were many exclamations. He also turned around when he heard the exclamations, and then saw that everyone was looking up at the sky. There was doubt in Lei Bai's eyes, and he also looked up. He saw that there were countless light spots floating in the sky. These light spots seemed to be formed by countless thunderbolts, and they were coming down. Lei Bai realized that these light spots were thunderbolts. These drifting thunderbolts, when falling, actively changed their direction and then entered the bodies of some people. It was unknown whether it was a coincidence or not, but these people were all members of the Holy Thunder Clan. In the sky, Zi Chen exhaled heavily. A holy talisman floated in front of him. At this moment, the holy talisman was pouring pure holy thunder power, like a thunderstorm. The talisman was formed. Chapter 3564. The rain of lightning entered their bodies and healed some of their injuries, as well as some of their energy consumption. Only then did Lei Bai realize that it wasn't him who had activated his potential, but the rain of lightning. At the end of the rain of light was a holy talisman. Looking at the holy talisman that was constantly spewing out rain of light, Lei Bai said excitedly, "I knew it, no one in the Holy Thunder Clan is afraid of death." He was very excited, because it proved that his choice was right. Cheers sounded. Those who were willing to die with Lei Bai had also made the right choice. There were also some who looked ashamed. For a moment, he also thought that the leader was going to run away. As for those who were cheering, they were dumbfounded. They didn't expect it to turn out like this. I said before, no one is really afraid of death, but what's the point of our battle? The 6-star turner said, are we still counting on this 4-star holy talisman to save us? At this moment, Zi Chen's voice sounded, a holy talisman indeed can't save everyone. Turner laughed and was about to say something. But we are fighting to nurture our Holy Thunder clan. Even without this holy talisman, we still have the meaning of fighting. Zi Chen said in a deep voice, because we are from the Holy Thunder clan, we are one of the 4 holy clans. Our ancestors used countless battles of blood and fire to tell the world that our Holy Thunder clan is one of the strongest clans in the Holy Spirit realm. On the battlefield with the enemy, we will only fight to the death, not be scared away. Good. Cheers could be heard from the crowd. The previously low morale of the crowd rose once again. Turner looked at Zi Chen and said, this is a meaningless battle. You are sending everyone to their deaths. We have more important things to do, and not die here. Zi Chen smiled faintly and said, maybe, but I will stay here today. Even if I die in battle, I am willing to. If you are willing to leave, then go and do your big thing. Fight to the death. We are the great Holy Thunder clan. Why would we be afraid of a group of small fries? The morale of the crowd was high, and they kept shouting. Obviously, there were many people who were not afraid of death. Zi Chen glanced at Turner and sneered. Then, his eyes swept across the crowd. Besides, who said we would die here? In front of him, another blank holy rune appeared. Zi Chen held unfathomable and began to draw runes. His movements were extremely fast, and every single saint talisman was completed in one go. Once these holy runes were formed, they would automatically release a rain of lightning, which would fall down and converge into the bodies of the Holy Thunder clan holy spirits. 1, 2, 3, 5. More and more of them appeared. As the number of Holy Thunder talismans increased, the space around Zi Chen became extremely chaotic. Vaguely, there seemed to be a terrifying aura brewing. Not good, stop him. Someone saw that the situation was not good and shouted loudly. Lei Bai shouted, clansmen who are not afraid of death, block them. As countless light spots entered their bodies, everyone's injuries and exhaustion recovered a lot. Those who had lost the ability to fight previously regained their combat strength. Coupled with the high morale, the powerhouses of the Holy Thunder clan erupted in an instant and displayed unparalleled strength. Zi Chen was still drawing runes, and his speed was getting faster and faster. These holy runes that appeared flew into the distorted space on their own. After the 10th holy rune was completed, Zi Chen quickly retreated. The space where he was originally standing was crazily distorted. The 10 holy runes began to surge, and then thunderclouds appeared. Boom! Thunder rumbled and was deafening. The 10 holy runes disappeared, and thunderclouds covered the sky. This is the roar of thunder's fury. A smile appeared on Zi Chen's face, and he continued to draw the 11th holy rune. In the thunderclouds, lightning surged, and the world darkened. Then, a loud thunder sounded, and a bolt of lightning broke through the thunderclouds, illuminating the dark world. The lightning seemed to be real, and it shattered in the sky, turning into more lightning rain. Boom! 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 Thunder rumbled, and lightning constantly broke through the clouds, like thunder dragons descending from the sky and disintegrating from the world. It left behind countless thunderbolts that filled the area, providing strength to all the members of the Holy Thunder clan. For the holy spirits of the Holy Thunder clan, these thunderbolts were comparable to high-quality elixirs. But for those enemies, the thunderbolts that filled the area were countless tiny attacks, which were very troublesome. Zi Chen was still drawing runes, and the talisman paper was automatically drawn into the thunderclouds. As the holy runes overlapped, the thunderclouds began to expand, and the area it filled became larger and larger. All the sacred spirits of the sacred thunder tribe were cheering excitedly. This was because the thunderclouds contained countless vitality. Under such circumstances, they all had a feeling that they would never die. Their injuries were recovering quickly. Their exhaustion was also recovering quickly. Their battle prowess was naturally increasing as well. Hearing these cheers, a smile appeared on the pale Zi Chen's face. Several thunder dragons broke through the clouds, let out dragon roars, and then disintegrated. Under such circumstances, it was as if there were thunderbolts roaring angrily. At this critical moment, the furious roar of thunder saved everyone. And this furious roar of thunder came from the Lei Zheng family. At this moment, in addition to thanking the Lei Zheng family, Zichen also wanted to thank those guys who took advantage of the chaos to cause trouble. Those people succeeded in buying time for him, reducing the number of casualties. Of course, Zichen would only thank them in his heart, and would not act on it. If he guessed correctly, those people should be Hu Huanshan's people. They were also the ones who sent Hu Huanshan the information. And compared to the other holy spirits who were fighting a bloody battle, they obviously did not contribute much. Thunder rumbled. With the assistance of the thunderbolts, the holy spirits of the Holy Thunder Clan fought more and more bravely. On the other hand, it was the enemy that was greatly suppressed in this area. The situation of the battle was gradually changing. However, this required Zichen to keep drawing talismans to keep the furious roar of thunder in place. After all, the number of enemies far exceeded that of Zichen's side. Zichen's consumption was getting greater and greater, but he did not care at all. Although the Holy Thunder Clan had lost him, their strongest combat power, the furious roar of thunder increased everyone's combat power, vitality, and recovery by a level. Everyone, hold on. The final victory is still ours. Because Zichen can't hold on any longer. Cheers came from the crowd. Zichen said with a smile, I can't hold on any longer, but can you guarantee that you can hold on? Of course we can hold on, because we have more people. When you can't draw talismans anymore, it will be the time of your death. A cold voice came from below. Zichen said with a smile, is that so? In terms of numbers, can you beat the Holy Thunder Clan? Boom. A huge tremor came from the horizon, and terrifying thunderbolts surged. Then, countless bolts of lightning appeared in all directions. It was like an even bigger encirclement, encircling everyone. A red figure, like a red thunderbolt, rushed to the front. At the same time, a cold voice sounded, leave no one alive. Chapter 3565. They're finally here. Seeing that beautiful red figure, a smile appeared on Zichen's face. Even though his face was already as pale as paper and his consumption had reached its limit, the furious roar of thunder could only temporarily relieve the situation because the number of enemies was indeed large. However, Zichen had always believed that after such a big thing had happened, the army of the Holy Thunder Clan stationed in the camp would come to his rescue in time. They had indeed come, although it was a little later than Zichen had imagined. But it was still in time. The huge encirclement began to close in. Lei Wushuang was the first to rush over. Zichen noticed that the immortal armor on her body was covered in blood, as if she had been through a great battle earlier. Wherever she passed, the holy spirits from other clans were sent flying one after another. The original encirclement was instantly torn open by her. Seeing this scene, the holy spirits of other forces were terrified. Knowing that they had lost, they began to retreat one after another. However, they were surrounded by the people of the Holy Thunder Clan, and they had no way to retreat. So they began to beg for mercy. However, Lei Wushuang only said one sentence, kill without mercy. Obviously, this violent female core did not intend to let anyone here go. This could be considered as killing one to warn 100, and killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Turner and those who had been heckling earlier were also fighting very hard at this moment. However, compared to the other excited people, there was obvious worry in their eyes. After the encirclement closed, this battle was nearing its end. Zichen, who had consumed a lot of energy, no longer continued to draw talismans. Instead, he stood in the air and watched the battle in the field. All the people of the Holy Thunder Clan who came in felt the impact of the thunder rain. All of them were very surprised, and there was curiosity in their eyes, as if they were looking at something new. Lei Wushuang flew to Zichen's side and patted him on the shoulder. Like a big sister, she said, well done. Zichen smiled faintly and asked, did you encounter trouble when you came? It's not trouble. I just wiped out all those guys outside while I was at it. How dare they have designs on our Holy Thunder Clan? They're simply courting death. Lei Wushuang proudly said, next, let their forces cry. Let the other forces see that this is the consequence of finding trouble with the Holy Thunder Clan. At this moment, the people below were cleaning up the battlefield. Lei Wuxiang waved his hand and said, "Everyone, back off. Leave the battlefield to them." Even if a dead divine spirit did not have a spirit ring, its body could still crystallize. That was a high-quality saint crystal, which was a resource in and of itself. Lei Wuxiang's action was naturally giving away all the spoils of war. Zichen didn't refuse because this was what his subordinates deserved. But before that, he needed to solve some internal problems. His figure descended from the sky as he said, "Tenor, take your men and leave at once. I won't hold you responsible for what happened before. I will give you all the contribution points that you deserve." Turner's heart trembled. He looked back at Zichen and said firmly, "Why are you driving me away?" Zichen looked at him and said, "You don't know the reason?" Tenor coldly snorted and said, "We contributed and killed all the enemies. Now that you have no use for us, you want to drive us away?" Zichen smiled faintly and said, "You don't have to deliberately say the word we. It's just that those guys who disturbed the morale of the army are not all of you." "Disturbed the morale of the army? I'm telling the truth," Tenor said coldly. "Let's just say that you're telling the truth." The smile on Zichen's face suddenly disappeared. The next moment, his body disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already beside Tenor. With a loud bang, Tenor's body flew backward. As he flew backward, the spirit ring was in Zichen's hand. "Zichen, what are you doing?" Tenor stared coldly at Zichen. "As the leader, you failed to drive people away and now you want to snatch my things. Do you want to disappoint everyone?" Zichen smiled and said, "What do you have that's worth me snatching? I'm just very confused. Why did Hu Huanshan come in time every time we found a place to plant the flag?" Hearing Zichen's words, the expressions of the Holy Spirits changed. Because what happened before seemed to be too much of a coincidence. Just as Lei Lan discovered something, Hu Huanshan's flag was inserted into the ground behind them. At first, they felt that there was something wrong. Now, they seemed to have guessed the reason. In an instant, the way everyone looked at Turner had changed. "Zichen, you're just blaming me for not being on your side before. Why do you have to come up with such an excuse now? You have no right to take my spirit ring. Give it back to me now." Tenor moved forward, ready to take the spirit ring again. At this moment, a strong oppressive aura descended from the sky and fell on Tenor. It was Lei Wuxiang who made a move. Tenor's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Lei Wuxiang to be so powerful. Lei Wuxiang landed and said coldly, "Investigate this matter. Whoever is at fault will be punished." Zichen's body glowed as he forcibly erased Tenor's spirit ring. Then, he took out a communication bead and said indifferently, "You guys didn't use your full strength in the battle before, so I won't hold it against you. However, you colluded with Hu Huanshan, which caused everyone to be unable to gain anything after so long. This is unforgivable." There were traces in the communication bead that could be checked with spiritual thoughts. Zichen handed the communication bead to Lei Wuxiang. The faces of the people from before turned pale in an instant, and there was panic in their eyes. The Holy Spirits, who had been sympathetic to them, now had extremely cold looks in their eyes. Thinking back to the previous battle, they seemed to have been avoiding the battle, and the killing was not fierce. Lei Wuxiang's spiritual thoughts swept over them, and there was anger in her eyes. She looked back at Zichen and said, "You have the final say on how to deal with them." Zichen's gaze swept over them and said coldly, "Actually, even if you colluded with Hu Huanshan, it's nothing. It's fine if you didn't use your full strength in the battle. However, you shouldn't have watched your comrades die in front of you without doing anything. People like you who ignore the lives of your comrades don't deserve to stay in my team, and these 3 heavenly energy saint arms, you don't deserve to have them." Zichen had 3 more saint talismans in his hand. He had given them to Tenor to use in the battle, but Tenor did not use any of them. Obviously, he did not use his full strength. "Nonsense, we have been fighting with our lives on the line," Tenor said loudly, unwilling to be expelled just like that. "Now, I announce that I will take away all of your contributions and expel you from my team. Chen said coldly. Chen, you are so cruel. Tenna's face changed, and so did the people who followed him. Hu Huanshan had not gained anything until now, but they had followed Chen. In addition to the first merit, they had also conquered a territory, and their contributions were not small. But now, they were being expelled just like that. You should thank me for not executing you on the spot for disturbing the morale of the troops. Chen's eyes were cold, and he said coldly, now, go back to your master. After saying that, he waved his sleeves, and a strong hurricane appeared, sweeping everyone's bodies away. If you dare to appear in my territory again, I will kill you without mercy. At the same time, Chen's warning was heard, full of killing intent. Chapter 3566. A group of holy spirits began to clean up the battlefield. Many of their companions had died in the battle this time. Those who survived were very fortunate, but they were also angry. He was angry at Turner and also angry at Hu Huanshan. These holy spirits all had families behind them, big or small. Once they bore a grudge against them, the Hu family would not have an easy time after this trial ended. Calculate the identities of the dead and give them 3 times the contribution reward. Chen's voice sounded again. Those who were alive still had the possibility of getting contribution points, but those who were dead had lost this qualification. I will also report this matter to the Holy Thunder Clan. When this matter is over, whether it is those people from before or Hu Huanshan, the Holy Thunder Clan will give you an explanation, Lei Wushuang said. This was also what Lei Wusheng had told him before he came. How is the camp? Chen asked. Lei Wusheng said, it has been defended. When the teleportation formation is built and the bloodline ancestor is there, Lei Wusheng can go out and fight. Bloodline ancestor? Chen heard this and said with a strange expression, can he defend it? Lei Wushuang rolled his eyes and said, he is one of the patriarchs of the Holy Thunder Clan. How can he not defend that place? Don't underestimate the bloodline ancestor. Just the fact that he is the only holy venerate in this place is enough to see that he is extraordinary. Chen nodded, but he still had his own opinion in his heart. On the outer planet, the bloodline ancestor sneezed a few times and then cursed, which little bastard is talking bad about me behind my back? He must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gut. According to the original rules, they still had to wait for a day, so Chen began to recover. Lei Wushuang did not leave immediately, but led people to patrol the surroundings. When Hu Huanshan learned that the reinforcements had arrived and all the enemies had been wiped out, his vision turned black and he almost fainted. This time, the plan that he had thought to be perfect had fallen short of success just like that. In this way, he, who had wasted the 6 Dao flag, gained nothing this time. Behind him, the morale of the holy spirits who were following him had dropped significantly. These damned reinforcements, how did they get here so quickly? Hu Huanshan cursed. And after seeing the dejected Turner's group, his mood was even worse. This time, no one gained anything. Turner and the others felt very wronged and very angry because they should have been able to get contribution points this time. And there were many of them. Now, he had nothing. Looking at the low morale, Hu Huanshan comforted them. Don't worry, everyone. We still have 4 flags. We just need to be careful. As long as we can snatch a piece of land from Chen, we'll make a huge profit. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Clearly, Hu Huanshan meant that there were still people in Chen's team. In another direction, Leijing Hongtian, who had learned of the arrival of reinforcements, unwillingly retreated. Chen, this isn't over yet. After Chen recovered, many people from the Holy Thunder Clan came. They were all professionals in exploration. Obviously, they would go all out to mine this place. This was because the outer planets had been successfully occupied and belonged exclusively to the Holy Thunder Clan. But this place was different, so they would mainly mine resources here. Of course, during this period, the Holy Thunder Clan would still send people over continuously. This area was currently the most important. What holy talisman did you use just now? Seeing that Chen had fully recovered, Lei Wushuang asked the question in her heart. Based on Chen's small number of people, the thundercloud played a huge role in stopping the encirclement of many forces. Thunder Fury, a 4-star holy talisman technique. Zichen told Lei Wuxuang how he obtained the Thunder Fury, which made her slightly stunned. In the end, Lei Wuxuang sighed, I didn't believe in karma at first, but now I do. With her means, of course, she knew that Lei Zheng Hongtian was behind Hu Huanshan. And this time, it was the Lei Zheng family's Thunder Fury that came to the rescue. Is there a limit to the use of your holy talisman? Lei Wuxuang asked. There is no limit. 1 can be used, but the effect is not great. 10 can be used in a group and have a supportive effect. It's like a territory, Zichen said after thinking for a while. Do you still want to contribute? Lei Wuxuang looked at Zichen, a contribution that belongs to you alone? Zichen looked at Lei Wuxuang with a strange expression. Why, is there a problem? Lei Wuxuang's expression was a little unnatural. I thought you wouldn't care about this kind of thing, Zichen said honestly. Lei Wuxuang was immediately angry. She stood up and said, What, in Zichen's eyes, am I someone who only knows how to fight and doesn't know how to use my brain? I didn't say that. Zichen spread his hands. How dare you look down on me, Zichen? Do you want me to play a few moves with you? Lei Wuxuang clenched her fists and began to circulate her aura. Zichen quickly begged for mercy, I admit defeat. Miss Wuxuang, you have unparalleled combat power. How would I dare to fight with you? Bah! You're such a glib talker. Lei Wuxuang retracted her fists and blushed. After a while, she said, You really don't want this contribution? Why wouldn't I want a contribution that comes to me for free? Zichen said, I just don't know, how do you plan to give it to me? This time, we have the right to distribute extra contributions. So, I plan to give you an extra contribution in exchange for the Thunder Fury. What's an extra contribution? Zichen asked. It's a special contribution. Lei Wuxuang explained, for example, you and Lei Lan will get a special contribution after conquering this area. However, there are big and small differences in special contributions as well. It depends on how much you contribute to the Holy Thunder Clan. For example, if your holy talisman helps multiple teams to defend successfully, then your contribution will stack up and the special contribution that belongs to you will naturally get the biggest share. Don't underestimate these special contributions. They will definitely tempt many holy spirits. Since it was so simple and clear, Zichen naturally understood. His holy talisman was no longer used to exchange for a fixed amount of contribution. Instead, it depended on how useful it was. If it was very useful, the contribution would be huge. Otherwise, the contribution would be very small. In this way, he would have a limitless future. Zichen thought for a while and said, How about this? You provide me with holy talisman papers, and I will not only give you the Thunder Fury for free, but I will also give you the Heavenly Saint Arm. It can be very useful for those with strong physical bodies. Here are 1,000 4th-grade holy talisman papers. You can use them first. I will give you more if it's not enough. Lei Wuxuang smiled. Obviously, she had been prepared. Zichen was slightly taken aback. He felt like he had been tricked. However, this time, his team had suffered great losses, and many of them were seriously injured. Under such circumstances, Zichen could not advance in time. Therefore, he began to draw talismans to accumulate contribution points for himself. Chapter 3567. The surrounding immortal beasts surrounded Zichen, and there were more than 10 of them. Their auras were strong, and each of them was equivalent to a 5-star sacred spirit. Some were even stronger. Zichen stood in the air with a defense talisman array above his head. He stood in the middle of the talisman array and drew talismans. He turned a blind eye to the immortal beasts attacking him. The defense talisman array blocked the auras of the immortal beasts and prevented them from affecting his talisman drawing. The immortal beasts were getting closer and closer to Zichen. Just as they were about to hit the defense talisman array, dozens of black sacred talismans suddenly flew out from Zichen's surroundings. These sacred talismans were in groups of 3. They left the range of the talisman array and flew in all directions. They were all ghost sacred talismans. These ghost sacred talismans instantly shattered, and palm-sized ghost spirits appeared. They formed a ghost sacred talisman array and entered the bodies of the surrounding immortal beasts. In the next moment, the immortal beasts struggled. Their eyes were filled with fear as they rolled in the sky. Their bodies disintegrated, and immortal stones the size of a human head appeared around Zichen. At a glance, there were more than 100 immortal stones. When the immortal beasts died, their soul lights flew back and restored the soul power that Zichen had used to draw talismans. He, who was originally writing Thunder of Fury, immediately changed to Ghost Sacred Talismans. After he finished writing 81 Ghost Sacred Talismans, Zichen continued to write Thunder of Fury. Under such circumstances, Zichen could ensure that his soul power was always in a strong state, so he could continue to write sacred talismans. At this time, this area was still equivalent to the periphery. There were not many teams like Zichen who continued to stay in the periphery. A few days later, Zichen had completed 1,000 roars of thunder, and the number of celestial stones floating around him had already reached several hundred. You're not taking so many high-quality immortal stones. Aren't you worried that someone will come and rob you? A faint laugh sounded. It was Lei Wusheng, who had just left the camp. Zichen put away the sacred talisman brush and said, "You came at the right time. These 1,000 Thunder of Fury should be able to help many of our people." 1,000 saint talismans flew toward Lei Wusheng. At the same time, Zichen waved his sleeve and the surrounding high-quality celestial stones disappeared one after another. They were all put away by Zichen. "Thank you very much." Lei Wusheng clasped his fists in thanks, then looked at Zichen, who was already showing signs of exhaustion, and said, "As for the heavenly energy saint arms, I have brought some from the tribe, and from the looks of it, it should be enough for a while." Zichen nodded. He had continuously written 1,000 furious thunder roars and many ghost spirit saint talismans. He had consumed a lot of energy and was mentally exhausted. He needed to rest. "I went to see your people earlier. They've mostly recovered. Speaking of which, the competition in the depths is very fierce. Do you want me to send you some more people?" In the last battle, Zichen's side had suffered heavy losses, losing nearly half of their men. However, it was proven that the sacrifice was worth it. There was a huge mineral vein in the depths of the region, and it could be said to be rich in resources. "No need. We'll be more careful in the future. If we really can't do it, we'll ask others for help." Zichen rejected Lei Wusheng's suggestion. This was because with the outbreak of the battle, all sides needed experts. If Zichen's side were to be sent reinforcements, the other teams would not feel comfortable knowing about it. Because losing people was happening all the time, and as long as Lei Wusheng's army existed, it would be a huge deterrent to the other forces. It was worth mentioning that the forces that had targeted Zichen a few days ago were all killed by Lei Wusheng, causing them to suffer heavy losses. Therefore, in the following large-scale battles, all the forces gradually restrained themselves. Often, the end of the battle would be a negotiation. Such a battle where one side was completely wiped out never happened again. Zichen returned to his original base. The mining work had already begun, and those who had been seriously injured had all recovered. In this place, the resources that they received were naturally the best. With the appearance of Zichen, the eyes of the holy spirits became fervent. Obviously, Zichen's arrival meant that the team was going to continue to go deeper. This time, they had received many contributions and tasted the sweetness of it. Naturally, they were eager to go deeper. Speaking of which, such an opportunity had probably not come by in hundreds of thousands of years. Zichen, who looked exhausted, announced that they would rest for a day and set off the next day. There were cheers all around. That night, Zichen did not cultivate. He just slept. This was rare. The next day, after he had fully recovered, Zichen led the team and went straight into the depths. This time, the number of people was only half of the previous time. As for the base that they had conquered, it was all handed over to the people who came later. They would take care of it from now on. Even if they lost it, it would have nothing to do with Zichen and the others. The team began to set off. Zichen and Lei Lan walked at the front, and the others followed behind. In another area, Hu Huanshan, who had been waiting for a long time, finally received the news that Zichen was going forward. Zichen, this time, I don't need too much. Just a piece of land is enough. So, you'd better perform well. They had only obtained a single piece of land. Although their gains were not that great, the advantage was that they had gained something. Naturally, there were fewer complaints in their hearts. Of course, if they could obtain a valuable piece of land, it would be an unexpected surprise for him. While they were moving forward, Lei Lan said, "We are the last team to go deeper. Almost all the areas here have been turned over. It won't be easy to find a suitable place for resources." Zichen said, "In that case, let's speed up. Also, there are only 6 flags left. We can't waste them. This time, we have to make sure that everyone's contributions are maximized." Obviously, Zichen did not intend to release the flags unless they encountered some special places. The two of them did not lower their voices, so the group of saint spirits behind them could clearly hear their conversation. This caused many of them to have a look of joy in their eyes. In this way, perhaps their team would be the one with the biggest gains this time. In the next few days, the team clearly moved forward. During this time, they occasionally saw flags planted by some forces, but they did not go over to fight. During this time, Lei Lan carefully sensed and found that there were resources of different sizes in some of the occupied areas. It seemed that there were many professionals among the major forces that came this time. Relatively speaking, there were very few people like Hu Huanshan who did not gain anything. Chapter 3568. Lei Lan pointed at the land under her feet and said, "There should be opportunities here." Should? Zichen was puzzled when he heard that. "Are you not sure?" "I can't be sure. I feel that there's a mysterious energy here that's affecting my senses." Lei Lan looked around and said, "Send some people to guard this place. I'll go to other places to take a look. Maybe we'll find something else." Zichen arranged for 5 people to stay here. 2 of them were 6 stars, while the remaining 3 were 5 stars. Then, the team continued to move forward and stopped about 3,000 miles away. "How is it?" Zichen looked at Lei Lan. "This time, my senses are clearer. There's definitely an opportunity underground," Lei Lan said. "However, I keep feeling that these 2 places have some kind of connection with each other. Or rather, in this area, they're both different. Send a few more people to guard this place. Lei Bai, you stay here too. This is a command flag. When you hear my order, you'll plant the flag here." Zichen trusted Lei Bai very much. He was a 6-star, and he was the first leader to say that he wanted to die in battle. Lei Bai took the command flag, turned around and said, "Who's willing to stay?" Immediately, a few people took the initiative to step forward and stood behind Lei Bai. "Let's go. We'll continue to the next place." Next, the team approached in another direction. That was the 3rd place that Lei Lan saw. After stopping here, Lei Lan sensed for a full 15 minutes. When she opened her eyes, there was excitement in them. She said, "It's here. When these 3 places are connected, it's a land of great opportunities." A light flashed in Zichen's hand, and the command flag appeared. At the same time, he ordered, "Send a message to Lei Bai. Tell him to put down the command flag." However, as soon as he finished speaking, a flash of lightning appeared in the team. "I'm sorry, Master Zichen. You're still a little too late." He saw a 6-star saint spirit with a faint smile on his face. Beneath his feet, a flag was expanding. "Chester, what are you doing?" A 6-star holy spirit shouted angrily. In an instant, the temperature in the surroundings plummeted. Everyone's eyes were filled with killing intent. "Everyone, please don't be angry. You should know that I'm also a member of the Holy Thunder Clan." Stet smiled proudly and took out his communication bead. After reading the contents, the pride on his face became even stronger. "Yes, the 2 of them have also succeeded. Looks like our luck is pretty good this time." Zichen stared at him coldly. Stefan laughed. "I know what you're going to say. Depriving us of all our contributions? After we have this place, we don't need it anymore." At this moment, a ray of light flew over from afar. The leader was Levi. Levi's face was very ugly, but more than that, it was filled with guilt. "Milord." The flag in his hand was the same one that Zichen had given him before. Obviously, someone else had beaten him to it. Zichen took the command flag, looked at the guilty Lei Bai, and comforted him. It's okay, this world is so big, there are always other opportunities. Moreover, these guys have used 3 command flags this time. There's only one left, they won't be able to make any big waves. If you're worried about the number of command flags I have, then I'm sorry to tell you that I still have many of these command flags. A faint laugh came from the horizon. Hu Huanshan led his people and flew over. This time, his face was full of pride. The people behind him also had smiles on their faces. Especially the people who were chased away by Zichen, their faces were full of pride. Using such despicable means, even if you get the opportunity, it's not your true ability, Lei Lan said angrily. Hu Huanshan smiled coldly and said, "Little girl, you're still too inexperienced. So what if you don't have the ability? Isn't it fine if you have the luck?" Then, he looked at Zichen and said, "Oh, I almost forgot. In this situation, I have to defend with all my strength, right? Oh right, Zichen, why don't you give me a hand and bring people to defend in advance? When it's done, I'll give you some shares." Obviously, this was what Zichen asked someone to say to Hu Huanshan. Now, Hu Huanshan used it on Zichen. In Zichen's team, all the Holy Spirits stared coldly at Hu Huanshan, their eyes full of anger. Zichen said indifferently, "Everyone, follow me and leave, full speed." After saying that, Zichen turned and left. "Haha, I won't see you off." Hu Huanshan's laughter sounded again. "This won't happen again." Zichen's cold voice was filled with endless killing intent. The other Holy Spirits were extremely unwilling, but there was nothing they could do. The Holy Thunder Clan was not allowed to start a war. After they were far away, Lei Lan said telepathically, "Is this really okay? There's nothing wrong with it, at least these flies won't come for a while." Just after Zichen's team left, Leijin Hongtian came. Looking at Hu Huanshan, who was very proud, he also laughed. Obviously, Zichen had really suffered a big loss this time. Did he get cheated again? Leijin Hongtian was a little worried. Hu Huanshan said proudly, "How is that possible?" This time, that guy called Lei Lan thought about it for a long time before he made up his mind. Moreover, Zichen is very cautious and has already checked the surroundings to make sure there are no pursuers. Even if he was on guard, he would never have thought that I would give them the flag in advance. Leijin Hongtian nodded and said with relief, "Next, prepare to defend. Don't worry, the big forces have already entered the depths. Those who are still here are nothing to be afraid of. As long as we can block the attacks of those immortal beasts, what happens next is nothing." Hu Huanshan said proudly, "And in this case, it's impossible for Zichen to borrow the hands of others." The news spread out as expected. Outside this area, there were many holy spirits from some small forces. Obviously, they had other ideas in their hearts. With Leijin Hongtian and other existences who were only one step away from the core, Hu Huanshan was very confident about this defensive battle. Therefore, before the battle began, he went to find the scouts and urged them to quickly come and excavate this area. The immortal beasts were the first to attack. A group of fierce battles broke out. Because there was no furious thunder roar, Hu Huanshan's side suffered a lot of losses. After that, other forces took advantage of the chaos and came, wanting to get a share of the loot. However, they were caught off guard by Leijin Hongtian and the others. One day later, this area was defended. Hu Huanshan was very proud. Next, he just had to wait for the scouts to arrive. As for Leijin Hongtian, he continued to move forward. He also had a flag with him. Obviously, he planned to use the same method to get some benefits from Zichen. 5 days later, the scouts that Hu Huanshan was waiting for finally arrived. It took 3 whole days for them to explore, which made Hu Huanshan even more excited. The more resources a place had, the more cautious it was. 3 days later, the scouts informed him that there were no opportunities in this area. Chapter 3569. Above an area with a radius of 100 miles, Zichen used the 4th flag and guarded the area for an entire day. Because the area was too small, there were almost no major battles. Everything was over. Leaving behind 2 5-star holy spirits to wait for the Holy Thunder Clan to take over the area, Zi Chen led the large group and continued to go deeper. Another 2 days later, Lei Lan discovered another area. This time, the scale was not small. Therefore, he did not hesitate to put down the flags and occupied 2 of them this time. Another day of guarding. Although Zi Chen had fewer people on his side, there were many powerhouses. With the addition of the furious thunder roar, this battle was daunting but not dangerous. Of course, the original number of people was reduced by nearly 1/10. After sending another 2 people to wait in place, Lei Lan continued to move forward and increased his speed. He did not know when Hu Huanshan would catch up again, so before that, Zi Chen had to use up all the flags on him. Of course, he did not use them at will. Instead, he relied on Lei Lan's perception. The place where the flags were placed was naturally a place with opportunities, or even a great opportunity. Therefore, before Hu Huanshan caught up, Zi Chen used 2 more flags. At this point, there was only 1 flag left among the 10 flags. The number of guards following Zi Chen decreased, but they did not feel depressed. Instead, everyone was very excited. This was because the harvest this time was really great. As for those who died in the battle, their contributions were also doubled, so they could die without regrets. This time, they had profited greatly by following Zi Chen. Zi Chen, I want you dead. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. It was Hu Huanshan. Obviously, after chasing for many days, he finally caught up with Zi Chen. His eyes looked like they were about to spit fire. Zi Chen glanced at him and said indifferently, "Why, are you here to help me defend the area? You're very welcome. After this is done, I'll give you a share." Hu Huanshan came closer and said angrily, "You're courting death. Everyone, attack. Kill everyone here." At this moment, Hu Huanshan seemed to have gone mad as he rushed towards Zi Chen. A tyrannical aura surged from his body. Zi Chen's eyes gradually turned cold as he used his own strength. Boom! A powerful aura erupted. At the moment when the 2 sides collided, Hu Huanshan was directly sent flying. With the immortal king armor, Zi Chen was almost invincible. As for the holy spirits who had followed closely behind, they could only watch from afar. Although their expressions were extremely ugly, they didn't have the courage to make a move. In such a place, if there was a private fight between members of the Holy Thunder clan, they would definitely be punished and bring trouble to the clan. Hu Huanshan forced himself to control his emotions, but the way he looked into Zi Chen's eyes still looked like they were about to spit fire. Good, very good. Zi Chen, this time, I will make you pay the price. Hu Huanshan looked at the area Zi Chen was guarding and turned to leave. At this moment, his heart was filled with monstrous hatred. This was because he had already used 9 flags to get here, but to no avail. Not only that, but in the previous defensive battle, his losses were not small. However, he didn't expect that the area he had conquered would have no resources at all, making him a laughingstock. Looking at Hu Huanshan leaving, Zi Chen's lips curled into a sneer. Since there was a traitor in the team, Zi Chen would naturally be on guard. He had dug a hole for Hu Huanshan to jump into again. After leaving, Hu Huanshan said coldly, "Go and spread the news. Say that there is a great opportunity underground in Zi Chen's area." Obviously, he was very unwilling to give up and decided to set up Zi Chen again. The defensive battle began. Zi Chen directly threw out more than 10 holy talismans of furious thunder roar. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and a rain of lightning fell continuously. The falling rain of lightning protected the battle area below. In this area, the holy spirits of the Holy Thunder clan fought more and more bravely. Compared to the enemy, they were suppressed by the power of thunder. In the previous few battles, Zi Chen was always the first to take out the holy talismans of furious thunder roar. This greatly reduced the team's losses. However, as they went deeper, the battle became more and more tragic. Zi Chen's team was constantly losing members. At this point, there were only a few 5-star holy spirits left in the team. There were still dozens of 6-star holy spirits. Lei Lan held a stack of holy talismans in her hand and stayed in the center. Once the thunder clouds above showed signs of weakening, she would throw out another talisman to replenish them. As for Zi Chen, he held the immortal spear in his hand and charged forward. Blood splattered everywhere as immortal beasts died one after another. The group of holy spirits fought fiercely and were not afraid of death. The first battle ended quickly. Immortal stones of different sizes were scattered all around. Everyone quickly cleaned up the battlefield and prepared for the second battle. Experts from other forces appeared around them. This time, there were quite a number of them. Seeing those people, Zichen's expression became colder and colder. He said indifferently, "Everyone, this should be the last battle. Defend this place, and everyone's mission will be completed." Many holy spirits nodded, their eyes filled with a final fanaticism. As long as they defended this place, even if they died in this battle, they would only lose a physical body. With the contribution they obtained from this place, it would not be difficult to refine a new physical body. Thunder clouds rolled above their heads. Thunder dragons constantly descended from the sky and then disintegrated into countless pure thunderbolts. Wisps of thunder power entered Zichen's body and recovered his energy. He waved his hand and motioned for everyone to retreat. Obviously, the battle would be held in the thunder clouds. The enemy charged over. There were more than a dozen teams. Die. Zichen held the battle spear in his hand and rode forward on his immortal beast. The battle spear in his hand drew a ray of light and charged forward. The six-star Holy Spirit targeted by Zichen was naturally aware of the opponent's strength. He hurriedly put up a defense. With a loud bang, the opponent's defense was instantly broken. The long spear pressed forward and penetrated the six-star Holy Spirit's body. A powerful force shook the area. The six-star Holy Spirit's body was sent flying. Zichen rode on his immortal beast and charged forward. This was a fierce battle. Zichen was bathed in blood. No one knew how many six-star Holy Spirits were killed by him. However, his personal strength was ultimately limited. His subordinates behind him suffered heavy casualties. The number of people in the team was decreasing one by one. Under such circumstances, the only thing they could do was to persevere and kill the last enemy. Because this place was too far away from the camp, there would be no reinforcements coming. Haha, go to hell. A six-star Holy Spirit from the Holy Thunder clan laughed and beheaded his enemy. However, several weapons pierced his body immediately after. His vitality faded away, but the smile on his face did not diminish. The same scene played out in the next few days. The Holy Spirits from the Holy Thunder clan who died in the battle almost all died with smiles on their faces. The slaughter was still going on, and it was exceptionally fierce. The number of people kept decreasing. In the end, Zichen was the one who held the fort. Those enemies were scared out of their wits and immediately fled. Chapter 3570. In the sky, the thunderstorm continued to fall, nourishing everyone's injured bodies. Corpses were strewn all over the ground. It was a tragic sight. However, everyone who was still alive had an excited smile on their faces. Evidently, they had once again successfully guarded an area. Hu Huanshan appeared in the distance. Looking at the scene in front of him, anger flashed in his eyes. Those trash, why didn't they hold on for a while longer? In the sky, the thunderstorm was still falling, and everyone's injuries were quickly recovering. Naturally, the success this time was due to the thunder's fury. This holy talisman technique from the Lei Jing family really helped Zichen a lot. Hu Huanshan was very unwilling, but his identity was special now. Naturally, he couldn't find trouble with Zichen. At this time, Lei Jing Hongtian appeared behind him and said, "Don't worry about this place. I found a big opportunity in the depths. Once you get it, it can make up for all your losses." Hu Huanshan was shocked when he heard this. Lei Jing Hongtian couldn't lie to him. This made him, who had been in despair, see hope again. So, he took his people and left. Zichen began to clean up the battlefield and then waited for the Thunder Clan's people to arrive. A day later, a team came here and handed over to Zichen. Then, a professional did a preliminary survey and found an opportunity. Zichen left with the team. He only had one flag left, but he didn't plan to use it for the time being. Because even if they saw an opportunity, it was impossible for them to defend it. A day later, Zichen looked at the 20 Holy Spirits and said, "You are free now. You can go wherever you want." The Holy Spirits said without hesitation, "Wherever Sir goes, we will go." Although Zi Chen was only a 4-star, they respected Zi Chen from the bottom of their hearts. Once they left here, the contribution they got this time would be enough to strengthen their family. On the other hand, Zi Chen had already used his own battle prowess to prove that he was worthy of being the captain. Now that everyone was free, they didn't leave immediately, because this was not a sightseeing place, but a dangerous area. If they followed Zi Chen, even if they encountered danger, they could take care of each other. Moreover, everyone knew that Zi Chen still had one last flag on him. If they found something special, they could still try to drop the flag. Seeing that none of them had any intention of leaving, Zi Chen did not force them. Instead, he led them deeper into the forest. Lei Lan was by Zi Chen's side. Lei Lan's contribution to the great harvest this time could not go unnoticed. Along the way, there were no more battles. Even the number of ferocious beasts gradually decreased. A huge city appeared at the end of Zi Chen's line of sight. "Are we reaching the city soon?" Looking at the outline of the city that was gradually becoming clearer, Zi Chen's heart was filled with anticipation. Because the real opportunity was the soul-gathering crystal mine. In addition to the city in the distance becoming clearer, some mountain peaks gradually appeared in the surroundings. The mountain peaks were continuous, as if a divine dragon was lying down, forming a huge mountain range. At this moment, figures flashed in the mountain range from time to time. Powerful auras surged there. There was a battle. Zi Chen released his spiritual thoughts and was surprised to find that there were immortals here. At this moment, many forces were surrounding and killing those immortals. The immortals were wearing immortal armor. Although the quality was not as good as Zi Chen's immortal king armor, it was still much stronger than ordinary armor. Zi Chen turned around to look at the crowd and found that their gazes had all become fervent. Obviously, everyone wanted to get a set of immortal armor. Zi Chen did not stop them. Instead, he said, "Be careful." Obviously, this was a tacit agreement. The group cheered and left. Zi Chen turned to look at Lei Lan and asked, "What's wrong?" According to Zi Chen's original intention, it was obvious that he wanted to help everyone. After all, his ghost spirit sacred talisman was extraordinarily powerful. But just now, Lei Lan suddenly sent a voice transmission, and Zi Chen dismissed this idea. Lei Lan looked at the endless mountain range in front of them and said in a deep voice, "I feel that there's something unusual about this place." "Oh," Zi Chen said, "is there another opportunity?" Lei Lan shook her head and said, "I'm not sure, but my perception is greatly affected here. There seems to be a mysterious force that blocks my perception." Hearing this, Zi Chen became spirited. He still had the last command flag. If there was really an opportunity here, he might be able to fight for it. He followed Lei Lan and flew forward. Zi Chen extended his spiritual consciousness and found that there were many holy spirits in the area. These holy spirits came from various forces. It could be said that all the forces that came to the depths had gathered here at this moment. The city was still at the forefront. This mountain range was like a natural moat, protecting the city ahead. There were many holy spirits here, but compared to when they first entered this world, the number of holy spirits had decreased by 90%. Zi Chen stood in the air. Lei Lan carefully observed the surroundings, but did not find anything. Right at this moment, a person flew over at high speed. "Brother Zi Chen." The person cupped his fists at Zi Chen from afar. Zi Chen cupped his fists in response and looked at the stranger. "I'm Lei Ba, from the Annihilation Clan." The person introduced himself. Zi Chen's expression changed, and he cupped his fists at Lei Ba again. This time, his expression was more serious. Of course, this was not for Lei Ba, but for the Annihilation Clan. It was a very special clan, similar to the enforcers of the Holy Thunder Clan. Its reputation was second only to the core of the clan, but it was very special and important. The role of this clan was to protect the peace of the Holy Thunder Clan. In the history of the Holy Thunder Clan, the Annihilation Clan had quelled rebellions more than 100 times. At the most serious time, the Annihilation Clan was almost destroyed. When the Annihilation Clan was mentioned, it could be said that everyone in the Holy Thunder Clan admired it. To the entire Holy Thunder Clan, the Annihilation clan's reputation might not be comparable to the Lei Zheng family's. However, among the core disciples, the Annihilation clan's reputation was much higher than the Lei Zheng family's. Speaking of which, Brother Zichen, your reputation has been great recently. Lei Ba said with a smile, many people are envious of your team and want to replace them. Zichen smiled and said, don't say that. I'm just a bit lucky. Moreover, after coming here, we suffered heavy losses this time. The team we brought with us has less than 20 people left. Lei Ba said, our losses are not small either. That's why I came to find you this time. In fact, I hope to join forces with your team. Chapter 3571. Previously, Lei Lan had such a feeling. Now that Lei Ba said the same thing, Zichen was even more curious. Have you found something? Zichen looked at Lei Ba. Lei Ba shook his head and smiled bitterly. How is that possible? The opportunities here are very hidden and difficult to find. Once found, it must be something extraordinary. I can't protect it. Zichen said, I'm afraid you've found the wrong person. I have less than 20 people. Moreover, I have a conflict with the Lei Zheng family. That Hu Huanshan from the Hu family has been targeting me. If you team up with me, not only will you not get a powerful force, you will also lose many allies. I didn't expect you to be such a straightforward person. Lei Ba laughed and said, but I'm the same as you. I'm not very likable. I also dislike the Lei Zheng family. Speaking of which, I also know about your situation. It's because of this that I want to team up with you. Zichen looked at Lei Ba suspiciously. With his identity as the Chaos Extermination clan, which family wouldn't want to curry favor with him? Even Lei Zhenghongtian would be very polite when he saw Lei Ba. Lei Ba smiled and said, in this area, there are less than 10 people who know my identity. Zichen's expression changed slightly when he heard this. Lei Lan's expression was the same. Lei Ba introduced himself as soon as he arrived. It seemed very casual, but he didn't expect it to be a secret. Lei Ba obviously didn't explain much to Zichen. Instead, he asked, so, do you agree? If you don't mind my weak force, I don't mind forming an alliance. Of course, it's only a temporary alliance. My people won't follow you. Zichen said. Lei Ba smiled and said, you don't have to worry about that. My people will follow you. Follow me? Zichen was stunned. He didn't understand. In this world, who doesn't know that you have a treasure-hunting prodigy by your side? Under such circumstances, the wisest choice is naturally to follow you. But you can rest assured. After the matter is done, according to our contribution, just give us some contribution. We won't ask for more. Your idea is good, said Zichen. But after coming here, there seems to be a mysterious energy that obstructs Lei Lan's perception. So right now, everyone is actually the same. Lei Ba clearly didn't expect it to be like this, but he didn't care too much and said, it's naturally good to have an opportunity, but it doesn't matter if you don't. Just treat it as making a friend. Zichen nodded slightly and flew forward. Lei Lan naturally followed beside him. What did you find? Zichen asked as they moved forward. I haven't found anything yet. Lei Ba said, however, none of the people who came here left. Clearly, they all felt that there was an opportunity here. Zichen's gaze swept past the mountain range and looked at the city in the distance. Is no one going in to take a look? Lei Ba shook his head and said, there is obviously a great danger inside, so no one has gone in yet. If the solar-massing crystal mine was really in this mountain range, no one would want to go in. Or rather, I won't be going in anytime soon. While moving forward, Lei Lan constantly used her perception ability to sense the surroundings. However, she found nothing. During this time, Zichen's spiritual thoughts found Hu Huanshan. Hu Huanshan was with Lei Hongtian, so he also noticed Zichen. They looked at each other coldly. Zichen ignored him and continued to look around. His spiritual thoughts landed on the mountain peaks and carefully probed, but he didn't find anything. At this moment, he noticed that in other places, there were many holy spirits using their various abilities and spells to search for opportunities. Among them, one of them was using an eye technique. His eyes lit up as he looked around. Zichen said in surprise, "Eye techniques can be used to find opportunities." Lei Bao said, "Although there are no successful examples for the time being, it's obvious that no one has given up." Zichen, who was walking forward, suddenly stopped. There was an abnormality here that affected his perception. Could it be some kind of restriction? Under such circumstances, Zichen's eye of destruction would naturally work. What's wrong? Lei Ba looked at Zichen, who suddenly stopped. "Perhaps, I can give it a try." Zichen's eyes lit up as the eye of destruction appeared. The originally ordinary mountain range in front of him had a new change at this moment. The colorful energy of heaven and earth filled the surroundings, and it was very eye-catching. At the same time, there was a mysterious power around the mountain range. This power was everywhere, like countless threads, enveloping the surroundings, sometimes disappearing. The light in Zichen's eyes disappeared. He found that in such a short period of time, he had consumed a lot of energy. "What did you find?" Lei Ba asked. Zichen smiled slightly. "Something interesting." Previously, he had only observed for a short time, but he still found that the light patterns were flickering, appearing, and disappearing. Lei Ba was a little puzzled. Zichen took a step forward, and his body lit up. The eye of destruction appeared again. Those thread-like patterns appeared once again. Zichen stretched out his finger and pointed forward. A ray of light streaked across his fingertip. Lei Lan and Lei Ba both looked at Zichen in confusion. The light in Zichen's eyes disappeared again, and the smile at the corner of his mouth slowly disappeared. "What did you find?" Lei Lan asked. "What did you see earlier?" Zichen asked. Lei Lan shook his head and said, "Nothing." Previously, when Zichen had made a move, with a light stroke of his hand, the threads he could see had been torn apart. Within the broken threads, there seemed to be something else hidden within. Since others couldn't see it, it was naturally a good thing for Zichen. Next, he just needed to slowly search, and he would definitely discover the secret of this mountain range. Zichen nodded slightly and said, "If that's the case, then let's take our time." Next, Zichen continued to use the eye of destruction. This time, he could see more clearly. Those threads appeared and disappeared, as if they were in two different spaces. When they disappeared, Zichen's eye technique didn't change at all, but when they appeared, the eye of destruction could temporarily cause them to become chaotic. Taking advantage of the moment of chaos, Zichen could cut the threads and see what was inside. He saw countless rays of light, like tree roots, intertwining and extending into the distance. The cut threads gathered together again, and the strange scene in front of Zichen disappeared. However, the previous glance was enough for him to see some clues. He looked back at Lei Ba and said, "Do you really want to cooperate with me?" Lei Ba said, "Why would I lie? Did you find something?" Chapter 3572. Lei Ba's expression shifted when he heard Zichen's transmission. Zichen continued, "Remember to tell him to bring more powerhouses. Perhaps we'll have to face off against all factions in the near future." Lei Ba nodded his head silently and began to arrange everything. Zichen continued forward, exploring one place after another. He seemed to be wandering aimlessly, just like everyone else around him, using useless arts and doing useless homework. What's the point of pretending to be mysterious? Hu Huanshan sneered at the pretentious Zichen. Even Lei Lan's perception is useless here, so what's the point of your eye technique? A figure stood in the air above the immortal city. He looked down on the outside world like a ruler looking at ants. He was the one who'd first appeared, but didn't appear again. A beam of light appeared next to him. It was an immortal clad in immortal armor. "My lord, those ants won't come in. They won't discover the mountain peak, will they?" The immortals were worried. The existence who called himself Lord smiled faintly and said, "Since you call them ants, you know that they don't have the ability to do so. However, even if we do find the summit of the mountains, it doesn't matter. Compared to our final plan, the cultivation resources in the summit of the mountains are nothing." The figure nodded and said with some relief, "If that's the case, do we need to make some preparations?" "No need. Just open the bag and wait for them to come in." With a flash, The other party disappeared from sight. Lei Wusheng was still in charge of matters in the outer regions. His expression shifted slightly when he heard the news from the depths of the immortal city. Who sent the news? Lei Wusheng asked. A 6-star sacred spirit named Lei Ba. The informant answered expressionlessly. In the entire saint spirit world, which of the 6-star saint spirits wasn't a famous overlord? But in this place, where countless 6-star saint spirits gathered, other than Lei Wusheng and the others were all nameless. Lei Wusheng nodded and waved a hand, indicating that the informant could leave. After they left, he couldn't help but frown. If it was someone else who sent the message, he might have ignored it. However, the person who sent the message was Lei Ba. Knowing Lei Ba's identity, he naturally understood the meaning behind the other party's message. However, guarding the outside world was also a heavy responsibility. As the leader, if he insisted on going deep, he would be neglecting his duties. Moreover, even if there were fortuitous opportunities in the depths, compared to the many resources in the outside world, it was really nothing. He stood in place and soon received the second piece of news. This news came from the secret channel of the Holy Thunder Clan itself. Through this channel, he learned many things that others did not know. For example, Zichen had tricked Hu Huanshan once again, and Hu Huanshan had contacted Lei Zhenghongtian many times. He even had a very close relationship with the Sacred Star Clan. Since he's teamed up with Zichen, he must have discovered something. Looking at the contents of the message, Lei Wusheng thought of Zichen's previous harvest. It was obvious that he had discovered something. Although he had not gone deep into the area, he had a good understanding of it. Everyone felt that there would be great fortuitous opportunities there. However, many forces had searched for a long time and still found nothing. Could it be that Zichen had discovered something? After a slight hesitation, he began to mobilize people. This time, he even called Lei Wushuang over. Obviously, he also felt that there might be a great discovery in the depths this time. Ever since Zichen signaled Lei Ba to send the message, Zichen had been searching in the mountain range for 5 days. During these 5 days, he had consumed a lot of energy because the Eye of Destruction was also suppressed. However, through the scenes he saw every time, he saw the other side of the mountain range, which was very shocking. However, he was indifferent and did not show any excitement. At this moment, he was searching through countless routes to find the location of the main vein. Lei Ba was a little anxious because he had received news that Lei Wusheng and the others were on their way. If they did not find anything, it would be a great crime. Another 2 days later, Zichen landed on a mountain peak. He looked into the distance and asked, "Where are they?" Lei Ba said, "Judging by the time, they should be here soon." "Why? Did you find something?" Zichen suddenly looked at Lei Ba and laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Lei Ba asked curiously. The last flag appeared in Zichen's hand. "Then I'll put it here. Let's test the firepower of all sides first." He casually inserted the flag at the location under his feet. Then, the flag lit up and ripples surged out. A real light barrier covered an area of 300 feet. Other than the mountain under his feet, there were 2 other mountains that were covered. "What is this?" Lei Ba was stunned. Obviously, Zichen's dropping of the flag at this time would make them the target of public criticism. If the reinforcements did not come and they found the place of opportunity, they would only die. Zichen smiled and said, "It's fine. If we can't hold on, we can just retreat. It's not a big deal." Lei Ba stared and said, "So, you did it on purpose? Let's see what the others think first. Only then can we prepare for the follow-up." Zichen said, "If that's the case, I'll immediately send a message to everyone to guard." Lei Ba said, "No need. Send a message to the others. Don't come over." Zichen looked at the area of 300 feet and said, "With just the 3 of us, we should be able to hold on." Lei Ba was dumbfounded. However, he quickly understood Zichen's meaning and laughed. If it was just a test, then there was naturally no opportunity in this place. At this time, everyone was looking at Zichen because he was the first to drop the flag. Coupled with some legends about Zichen, everyone's eyes became fiery. Could it be that he really found a magical place? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This guy, what the hell is he doing now? After seeing Zichen drop the flag, Hu Huanshan's face immediately became gloomy. Speaking of which, when he saw Zichen drop the flag, he had a shadow in his heart because he had been tricked 9 times. Moreover, with Zichen's strength, it shouldn't be a problem for him to drop the flag in an area of several thousand feet. However, he only covered a few hundred feet. Why was that? Lei Hongtian looked at Zichen and frowned. Obviously, he couldn't understand what the other party was doing. Looking at this mountain range, only Zichen had dropped the flag. At this time, he had undoubtedly become the focus of everyone. Among them, there was no lack of murderous gazes. Regarding this, Zichen was indifferent. He stood on the mountain peak and looked at the heroes. Real? Fake? At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with hesitation. Because Zichen was too casual. He was so casual that it was obvious that he was telling everyone that this was just a piece of graffiti to ease the atmosphere. Once they attacked, they would definitely suffer heavy casualties. If it was fake, the losses would definitely outweigh the gains. But what if it was real? Chapter 3573. Zichen smiled as he looked at the crowd with a calm expression. Beside him, Lei Lan and Lei Bai's hearts were pounding. They didn't know if there was an opportunity here. Lei Bai and the others didn't come over to help because they heard Zichen's order. Lei Bai's people didn't come either. The surroundings were very quiet. You bastard, you're still playing tricks. An angry and cold voice broke the silence. It was Hu Huanshan. He was already dissatisfied with Zichen. You idiot, you're so evil. Who are you trying to trick this time? Zichen looked at him and said coldly, how do you know it's fake this time? Hu Huanshan was so angry that his body was trembling. He cursed, you idiot, if it's real, why are you standing there with 3 people? Why don't you call your people over to defend? Zichen said indifferently, it's just 3,000 feet. Do you need so many people to defend? T, you just don't want others to die for nothing. This place is fake. Hu Huanshan said angrily, you didn't find the place of opportunity at all. You butcher, you want to kill. Hearing Hu Huanshan's words, many people's expressions changed. Many of them knew about Hu Huanshan's deeds. Compared to Zichen's glory, he was the opposite. He was tricked very badly. Hu Huanshan, who had been tricked many times, naturally had the right to speak about Zichen's understanding. Then, did Zichen really want to kill people? Zichen said with disdain, I only have 1 flag left. Do you think I'll take it out to play? Hearing this, everyone's expression became even more strange. Under normal circumstances, if there really was an opportunity here, it would definitely follow Hu Huanshan's words. That way, no one would have any ideas about this place. However, Zichen actually emphasized that there was an opportunity here. Was he really looking for a fight? Or was it purely to kill people? Hu Huanshan said indifferently, don't think I don't know what you're planning. It's just a flag. If you want, I can give you a bunch. Zichen fell silent. Of course, it could also be said that he ignored him. Do you really think there are no opportunities there? Lei Hongtian sent Hu Huanshan a sound transmission. Hu Huanshan said with certainty, out of 10 times, I've already been wrong 9 times. I don't believe that I'll be wrong again this time. The probability of guessing wrongly 9 times in a row was not high to begin with. If he guessed wrongly 10 times in a row, the probability was even lower. Under such circumstances, many people believed Hu Huanshan. Because Zichen only had 3 people, how could he dare to fight against so many heroes? One had to know that there were many forces that had come here. Not to mention others, there were 3 forces that were comparable to the Holy Thunder clan. Moreover, the members of the Quintet aristocratic family were not any weaker than the Holy Thunder clan. Would Zichen dare to take such a huge risk to occupy this land of great opportunity? The answer was obviously impossible, unless he was a gambler. Because it would be safer to wait for the main forces to arrive. Although they had already received news that Lei Wusheng of the Holy Thunder clan was on the way. But who could guarantee that the 3,000 feet area under Zi Chen's feet was the real land of opportunity? Because this was a mountain range, there were too many similar terrains. Of course, there were some existences with special perception. They used secret techniques or eye techniques to investigate the area under Zi Chen's feet. In the end, they all shook their heads and said that they did not find anything unusual. Because that place was too ordinary. Brother Zi Chen, congratulations on occupying a land of great opportunity. Suddenly, a faint laugh sounded, and two people flew over from the outside. It was Ink from the Death Prison Star Pirate and the existence called Sixth Young Master. When the two of them were outside, they were just spectators and never fought. Unexpectedly, they took the initiative to appear now. Did they see something? Zi Chen's expression did not change, and he said indifferently, "You're welcome. You're a Death Prison Star Pirate, and I'm a member of the Holy Thunder Clan, so I'm not familiar with you." As soon as he said that, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped, and many Holy Spirit's eyes fell on Ink and Sixth Young Master. The reputation of the Death Prison Star Pirate was extremely bad. Sensing the unfriendly gazes around, Ink's smile did not fade, and he continued, "Brother Zi Chen, you're wrong. You and I have traveled together. How can you say we're not familiar with each other?" Zi Chen said, "Your method is too low-end." Ink said, "It doesn't matter. I just feel that Brother Zi Chen may not be able to guard this place. I really want to help Brother Zi Chen." Zi Chen waved his hand and said, "No need. If you really want to guard it, the Holy Thunder Clan has plenty of powerhouses." As soon as he said that, there was an uproar in the surroundings, and everyone wanted to curse. "Good fellow, so you really want to kill people?" Hu Huanshan sneered, as if he had seen through Ink long ago. "If that's the case, I've been rash. I'll take my leave now." Ink cupped his fists at Zi Chen, then turned around and left. Zi Chen did not pay attention to him, showing a rare indifference. Under such circumstances, if they dared to have too much contact with the Death Prison Star Pirate, they might all become enemies. The Sixth Young Master followed behind Ink and asked in confusion, "Why are you doing this?" Ink said via voice transmission, "I wasn't sure at first, but after the conversation, I concluded that there is an opportunity under Zi Chen's feet, and it's a great opportunity. Don't turn around and look. Act as if nothing happened. Why do you want to help him?" The Sixth Young Master, who did not show any abnormality, said via voice transmission, "Under such circumstances, shouldn't we rob this place? No, Zi Chen is the key to us finding the soul-gathering crystal vein. That's the great opportunity. The rest is nothing. Therefore, we must not give ourselves away. If we are alerted by him, our plan will completely fail." Ink and the Sixth Young Master left. Because their identities were sensitive, they could not stay here for long. "Is there really no opportunity here?" Lei Jing Hongtian asked again via voice transmission. "Can't you see? With so many heroes gathered, Zi Chen's actions were only for the sake of fighting and making a name for himself. Let me ask you, where can you find such a good opportunity? Once someone goes up and is easily defeated by Zi Chen, his reputation will spread far and wide. At that time, all forces will know that there is a powerhouse called Zi Chen in the Holy Thunder Clan." This time, Hu Huanshan used voice transmission. Obviously, he did not want to share this secret. Lei Jing Hongtian nodded. He actually felt that this was true. In the Saint Spirit realm, once one had a great reputation, one would get twice the result with half the effort. "Damn it, he actually beat me to it," Lei Jing Hongtian cursed. This kind of opportunity to gather fame was what he had always wanted. "Hihi, others think you're fake, but I think you're real." Chapter 3574. The one who walked out from the crowd was Xingyichen, the leader of the initial group. He had a good relationship with Lei Jing Hongtian. Last time, he had targeted Zi Chen, but many of his experts were killed by Zi Chen. Seeing the other person walk out, Zi Chen said, "You do have some foresight." Xingyichen said, "It's not easy to reach here. I don't think there's a need for a large-scale war." "Of course, you must think so too." Zi Chen said, "What do you want?" "Very simple, you and I will spar. Whoever wins will get this place." Xingyichen pointed to the area under Zi Chen's feet and said. Zi Chen shook his head. Xing Chen sneered. Why, you don't dare. The expressions of the surrounding people changed. It's not that I don't dare, but I don't want to spar with you. Zi Chen said indifferently, you have targeted me many times. The reason why I ignored the danger to refine the immortal king armor was also because of you. Originally, you were a coward and I couldn't fight with you. Since you took the initiative to stick out your head, how can I not take this opportunity to cut off your head? Looking at the ugly expression on Xing Chen's face, Zi Chen said coldly, so, between you and me, there is only a life and death battle. There is no such thing as a spar. The surroundings were in an uproar. Zi Chen gripped the battle spear in his hand and said coldly, if you have the guts, let's have a life and death battle. The immortal king armor released a strong light and Zi Chen's body released a tyrannical aura. Xing Chen's eyes turned cold. Good, I have also wanted to kill you for a long time. At the same time, I also want to see which defense is stronger between the immortal king armor and the immortal king armor. An immortal sword appeared in Xing Chen's hand. The immortal king armor around his body began to emit light and a powerful aura surged. Die. He instantly moved forward and Xing Chen's power coiled around the immortal sword. Zi Chen held the battle spear and stabbed forward. A sharp whistling sound came from the air and left a clear white mark. The battle spear stabbed towards Xing Chen's forehead. Xing Chen's expression did not change. The immortal sword in his hand vibrated and attacked the battle spear. Clang! A powerful shockwave shook the area, and the two of them retreated. Then, they started fighting again. At that moment, everyone's attention was focused on the battle before them. They did not believe that Zi Chen actually had a fortuitous encounter beneath his feet. Based on the conversation between the two of them earlier, no matter how they looked at it, they had come to settle their old grudges. Boom! 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 The powerful energy continued to vibrate, forming a terrifying fluctuation. Planet 9 lights. A cold voice suddenly sounded out, and Xing Chen's speed suddenly increased. Like a ray of starlight, he appeared beside Zi Chen. The Holy Thunder clan had the extreme speed movement technique, and so did the Holy Star clan. Zi Chen didn't move an inch when he saw the man appear out of nowhere. Sword light flashed, carrying a powerful aura. It went straight for Zi Chen's neck, intending to decapitate him. Zi Chen gently raised his left arm, and the immortal king armor on his arm glowed. Clang! When the immortal sword met the immortal king armor, a clanging sound was heard, and a white mark was left on the immortal king armor. That was all. The long spear in Zi Chen's right hand turned into a ray of lightning and went straight for Xing Chen's throat. Heavy star domain. In the sky, starlight shone, and several Xing Chen stars appeared, forming a Xing Chen diagram. A terrifying pressure descended from the sky and landed on Zi Chen's body. Zi Chen felt his body sink, and the spear that was moving forward was also affected. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and countless rays of lightning gathered in the spear. That oppressive feeling instantly disappeared, and the spear continued to move forward. Kai! Xing Chen's body was penetrated, but it was only an afterimage. When Zi Chen's speed had slowed down, he had seized the opportunity to retreat. 100 feet away, Xing Chen appeared, and there was blood flowing out from his throat. Although he had successfully avoided the previous attack, he had still been injured by the spear light. After touching his throat and seeing the blood on it, Xing Chen's gaze turned cold. I want you dead. Zi Chen's expression was cold, and he said disdainfully, with just you. A mere 5-star dares to boast in front of me? Looks like I need to let you feel the true power of the Sacred Star Clan. The aura around Xing Chen suddenly retracted, and he stood there like an ordinary person. But in the next moment, a torrential aura surged out from his body, spreading in all directions. Everywhere it passed, all the sacred spirits could not help but shiver. On the mountain peak, Lei Ba, who was standing beside Lei Lan, narrowed his eyes and cried out, Spirit Extermination Technique. For an existence of his level, the Spirit Extermination Technique was no secret. It was known as one of the strongest techniques in the sacred spirit world, and it was the nemesis of the Spirit Clan. When the surrounding sacred spirits sensed this aura, their faces changed, and they could not help but retreat. It was a fear that came from their souls. It's just the Spirit Extermination Technique, And I thought it was some amazing technique. After sensing the oppressive aura, Zichen's expression was still full of disdain. Then let's decide life and death with one move. He waved his sleeve. 81 ghost spirit saint talismans appeared. They were as black as ink, and the glowing runes had a demonic feeling. Zichen's eyes were cold, and with a thought, the 81 ghost spirit saint talismans shattered in the air, forming a ghost spirit array. 81 ghosts appeared from the shattered saint talismans, but compared to before, the ghosts were clearer, as if they were real. The array was formed, and the ghost spirits moved forward. The 81 ghosts flew around, occasionally letting out sharp sounds. There was no powerful aura, but it still made people feel a strong chill. Idiot! When Xing Chen saw these ghosts, he could not help but sneer. He dared to face Zichen, so he was naturally prepared. With a thought, 3 saint talismans flew out, towards the sky. Star Thought Blade. On the saint talismans, there were 5 light runes, indicating the level of 5 stars. They shattered in an instant, and then 3 blades surrounded by Xing Chen's light appeared. A powerful soul aura surged out from the blades. Obviously, he already knew the characteristics of the ghost spirit saint talismans and had thought of a way to break the enemy. Just as the 3 soul blades were moving forward, Xing Chen began to form seals, and a seemingly real Xing Chen appeared in front of him. The soul blades fell on the ghost spirit array, and the 81 ghosts that ignored the energy attack let out sharp cries, as if they were suffering some kind of pain. The smile on Xing Chen's face was still, and there was more confidence on his face. He looked at Zichen, and his eyes turned cold. Spirit extinguishing starlight. The Xing Chen in front of him suddenly burst out with a dazzling white light, and then, a real Xing Chen light beam went straight for Zichen. It had the speed of light, and in an instant, it was in front of Zichen. Facing this attack, Zichen could only defend. The speed of the light beam was too fast, and he could only defend. With the war spear in front of him, his hands crossed, and golden light shrouded his body, forming a defensive light shield. As the spirit-extinguishing starlight approached, the defensive light shield was extinguished and shattered. Then, the starlight landed on Zichen's chest. Boom! A terrifying power exploded, and Zichen's body flew out. Countless starlight surrounded his body, as if to extinguish his life force. Looking at the scene in front of him, Xing Chen's face revealed a cold intent. A mere 4-star dares to boast in front of this young master? In the sky, the ghost spirit array blocked the attack of the 3 soul blades. The array, which had obviously dimmed, came down and entered Xing Chen's sea of consciousness. His face instantly turned pale, but the smile on his face grew brighter. Chapter 3575. The 81 ghost spirit saint talismans were dissolved just like that. It seemed simple, but the consumption was not small. Just the 3 5-star saint talismans were worth a lot. Although he had blocked this move, Xing Chen's soul aura was still injured, and his aura became very weak. However, the smile on his face did not diminish because Zichen could only use this move once. Once it was broken, Zichen would not be able to use it again. He would not give his opponent time to draw talismans. Therefore, he walked forward and said indifferently, "Next, is it time to take your life?" The energy in front of him dissipated, and Zichen retreated 200 feet. The immortal king armor was still intact, but his face was a little pale. It was obvious that he had suffered serious injuries. After hearing Xing Chen's words, Zichen's lips curled into a disdainful smile. "You only destroyed one of my attacks, and you're so sure that you won. What else can I do? You're just a 4-star, and you've lost your strongest move. Can you kill me? Or can you break my immortal king armor?" Xing Chen snorted and said, "What 18 immortal king armor? In my opinion, it's just SOSO. Zichen walked forward, and light circulated in front of him, and the immortal beast from before appeared again. He rode the immortal beast, wore the immortal king armor, and held a war spear in his hand. Xing Chen's expression was full of mockery. "It looks like it, but it's just a facade. Is that so?" Zichen's gaze instantly became sharp, and a sharp aura surged out from his body. Roar! The immortal beast under him let out a roar, and a ray of light flew out from its body and entered Zichen's body. To be more precise, It landed on the immortal king armor. Then, the immortal king armor erupted, and power surged into the war spear. At this moment, the war spear in Zi Chen's hand began to tremble. Spear 1, Heaven and Earth. A cold voice rang out, and Zi Chen stabbed forward with his spear. Buzz. Space trembled and began to distort madly. In the past, Zi Chen's body had been pierced by this move. After countless battles, he had finally comprehended the spear technique of this immortal spear. This spear contained the might of heaven and earth. A momentary absent-mindedness appeared in Xingyi Chen's eyes, but he quickly regained his senses. The spear had already reached his chest. "You're courting death," he roared angrily, and his body lit up. He chose to use the immortal armor to withstand this attack. At the same time, the immortal sword in his right hand slashed towards Zi Chen's neck. Obviously, as long as he blocked Zi Chen's spear, then Zi Chen would be beheaded. The surrounding spectators all held their breaths. The battle had clearly reached its most dangerous point. Lei Lan's eyes were filled with worry. Lei Ba was also worried for Zi Chen. In the immortal city, there was no change in the expression of the indifferent being. It was as though he wasn't nervous at all. Because he was familiar with it, he was calm. The battle spear thrust forward, encountering Xingyi Chen's defense. Peng! The defense was instantly broken. On the battle spear, light bloomed. The power of this spear had been displayed to the extreme. It continued to move forward, meeting the immortal armor. Cracks appeared on the indestructible immortal armor. These cracks spread rapidly, covering the entire armor. There was a loud bang. The immortal armor exploded, and the battle spear continued forward, piercing into Xingyi Chen's chest. It instantly pierced through. The immortal sword in Xingyi Chen's hand stopped beside Zi Chen. A strong wind whistled in his ears, blowing his hair. How is this possible? Xingyi Chen's eyes widened as he looked at Zi Chen in disbelief. His right hand that was holding the sword was still surging with light, and a powerful force continued to converge on the immortal sword. As long as he moved forward a little more, Zi Chen would definitely be beheaded. However, the immortal sword had lost control and was motionless. His gaze fell on the immortal sword. With the sword tip as the starting point, cracks suddenly appeared on the immortal sword. The cracks were like spirit snakes that snaked forward, covering the immortal sword. In the next moment, the immortal sword shattered, and the fragments flew in all directions. The surroundings became incomparably quiet, and there was no sound. Xingyi Chen looked at Zi Chen, his eyes filled with unwillingness. "How can the power of the immortal king armor be guessed by you?" Zi Chen pulled out the immortal spear, and sacred blood spurted out from Xingyi Chen's chest. His already weak aura instantly withered. His soul was destroyed. At such a close distance, Zi Chen would not give the other party the chance to swallow the elixir, and forcefully extinguished his life force. "You're courting death." Right at this moment, a furious roar broke the silence of this place. A 6-star saint spirit flew forward at top speed. He was also wearing immortal armor, and he held a battle sword in his hand as he slashed at Zi Chen. Clang! Zi Chen blocked with his battle spear. A powerful force came, and the immortal beast quickly retreated with him. He returned to the original mountain peak and stared indifferently at the 6-star sacred spirit. The other party hugged Xingyi Chen's corpse, and his eyes were filled with pain. He turned back and stared at Zi Chen. "Kid, I want you dead." Zi Chen snorted. "Why? Is your sacred star clan so unruly? A battle of life and death is naturally a scene of life and death." A ray of light flew out from his body, and Xingyi Chen's corpse disappeared. It was obvious that the 6-star sacred spirit had kept it. The other party said coldly, "A battle of life and death. Fine, I, Xingyi Heng, will also have a battle of life and death with you today. Do you have any shame? I just went through a big battle, and now you want to have a battle of life and death with me? Will there be other people from your sacred star clan after I kill you?" Zi Chen said coldly. "If you don't dare, then scram. My sacred star clan wants this place. Whether you're pretending or there's really an opportunity here, I'll accept it all, you coward of the sacred thunder clan." The angry Xingyi Heng was obviously not stupid. He knew how to use this method to provoke Zi Chen. Fine, your clumsy provocation is successful. I accept your challenge. Life and death is up to fate. With that, the war spear in Zi Chen's hand disappeared, and the immortal beast under him also turned into light and dissipated. He began to form seals. Under such circumstances, if he wanted to fight against a 6-star sacred spirit wearing an immortal armor, he could only use the lightning controlling technique. Only the lightning controlling technique could have a deterrent effect at such a time. In an instant, the seals were formed. Die. Xing Yiheng held his saber horizontally, and 9 stars appeared above his head. He instantly closed in and slashed down. Star might. The long saber trembled, and a powerful force surged out, creating a terrifying pressure in the surroundings. Feeling this aura, everyone's expression changed greatly. The other party was undoubtedly stronger than Xing Yichen. The saber light approached, bringing with it a terrifying pressure. Infinite pressure descended from the sky. Zi Chen opened his eyes and felt this aura. His expression gradually turned cold. Lightning controlling technique. Boom. Above the sky, a bolt of lightning appeared, and the world suddenly lit up, dazzling the eyes. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky, like a thunder dragon from the outside world, winding down. Chapter 3576. Facing Xing Yiheng's attack, Zi Chen did not dodge or evade. The surrounding holy spirits looked at this scene in astonishment. They secretly thought, could it be that Zi Chen was scared silly? Did he forget to dodge? Those from the Holy Thunder clan also broke out in cold sweat for Zi Chen. Lei Jing Hongtian and Hu Huanshan's expressions were extremely cold. Of course, they were willing to see the scene of Zi Chen being killed. At this moment, the sound of thunder rumbled, deafening the ears. Then, heaven and earth emitted a dazzling light. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky, as if it had passed through the barrier of time and space, and landed on Xing Yiheng's body first. The starlight that surged around his body was instantly drowned out by the lightning. His entire body released the light of lightning, as if he was a member of the Thunder Clan. Zi Chen's aura became weak, but his expression was still cold. Lei Ba stared blankly at this scene. Get ready, go get the immortal armor. Zi Chen's voice suddenly sounded in his sea of consciousness. He was slightly startled and puzzled. At this moment, the lightning in front of him dissipated. Xing Yiheng's aura had already disappeared. He was dead. The surroundings were in an uproar. It was actually an instant kill. Lei Ba reacted and instantly flew forward. Taking advantage of the fact that no one could react, he took away Xing Yiheng's corpse. Who are you? Why are you so rude? Just as Lei Ba retreated, a berating voice sounded. It was Lei Jing Hongtian. Lei Ba glanced at the other party and said, Who do you think you are to criticize me? Bastard, he is Lei Jing Hongtian of the Lei Zheng family. He is only 1 step away from the core. Hu Huanshan reprimanded from the side. Oh, so you are the core that was eliminated? Lei Ba smiled coldly and said, But don't be discouraged, because there are too many people who were eliminated like you. You're courting death. Hu Huanshan's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Through the conversation between the two sides, Zi Chen absolutely believed that these people did not know Lei Ba's origin. Otherwise, they would not have used such an attitude. Lei Jing Hongtian said, It's my fault that I didn't reach the pinnacle of the core. It has nothing to do with you. But you shouldn't have taken the Sacred Planet Clan's armor. Because the Sacred Star Clan is our ally. Is this how you treat your ally? Lei Ba looked at Lei Jing Hongtian as if he was looking at an idiot. I say, no wonder you were eliminated. It turns out that your head was caught by a door. Have you ever seen allies fight to the death? They don't care about the Holy Thunder Clan. Do I know who they are? Lei Jing Hongtian said, It's not that they don't put the Holy Thunder Clan in their eyes, but they have a conflict with Zi Chen. This is a private matter that needs to be resolved by both sides. It has nothing to do with the Holy Thunder Clan. And you took away the immortal armor that belonged to the Holy Star Clan. This will affect the alliance between the two clans. There are a lot of fallacious arguments. Lei Ba said disdainfully, I never thought that this generation of Lei Zheng's disciple would be so scheming. You're just trying to befriend the Holy Star Clan, but there's no need to deliberately trample on them. Lei Jing Hongtian frowned. Looking at the entire Holy Thunder Clan, there were only a few who dared to not give face to the Lei Zhang family. This strange Thunder Clan disciple was able to become a 6-star, so his status in the Holy Thunder Clan was obviously not low. He was definitely not a fool. What was the reason why he dared to look down on him? Lei Ba looked around and said indifferently, "I'll have to trouble you all to bear witness to this." This idiot from the Lei Jing family deliberately targeted his fellow clansmen in order to befriend the Holy Star Clan. Of course, we don't care about it. So, the Holy Star Clan must accept this favor, okay? As for this immortal armor, it's Zi Chen's spoils of war. I'll definitely not return it. So, if you want to target him, come at me. Don't make things difficult for the Lei Zheng family. Lei Ba's words were sarcastic, making Lei Jing Hongtian's expression extremely ugly. Do you want to die? Hu Huanshan stared at Lei Ba with cold killing intent surging in his eyes. Come at me if you have the ability. Let's see who's the one who wants to die, Lei Ba said coldly. Everyone around had a strange look on their faces. This was obviously a conflict between the Holy Star Clan and Zi Chen. How did it become a war of words between the Holy Thunder Clan? The Holy Star Clan's powerhouse, who had already come out, was ignored. The other party stood there and listened to the quarrel between the two sides with an awkward and unhappy expression. Our Holy Star Clan will accept the Lei Jing family's kindness this time. We will definitely repay you in the future. The other party cupped his fists at Lei Jing Hongtian and said, however, today's matter is a dispute between our Holy Star Clan and Zi Chen. So, please don't interfere in this matter. Lei Jing Hongtian cupped his fists and replied, our Holy Thunder Clan will never interfere in this matter. This guy has provoked the Holy Star Clan several times. He really deserves to die. As soon as Lei Jing Hongtian's voice fell, the crowd immediately booed. Even if they had a conflict with Zi Chen, in front of outsiders, they were all members of the Holy Thunder Clan. No matter what, Lei Jing Hongtian was still a member of a big clan. Many people couldn't stand seeing him deliberately flatter the Holy Star Clan and belittle his own people. Lei Jing Hongtian obviously noticed the subtle change in the crowd's attitude, so he snorted and stopped talking. The surroundings became quiet again. The 6 stars of the Holy Star Clan stared coldly at Zi Chen. Zi Chen said, if you're not convinced, then come up. I'll play with you to the end. The other party's expression was very ugly. The thunder that Zi Chen had summoned was too terrifying. He wasn't much stronger than Xing Yiheng, so as long as Zi Chen could still use that move, he would definitely die. The atmosphere became very quiet. The existence of the Holy Star Clan didn't dare to go up, but he was obviously unwilling to give up the immortal armor. In front of so many people, he obviously didn't want to lose face for the Holy Star Clan. So, the two sides were in a stalemate. At this moment, a tyrannical aura came from behind. As everyone turned around, they saw a flash of thunder light appear one after another. The reinforcements of the Holy Thunder Clan had finally arrived. The leader was Lei Wusheng, followed by Lei Wushuang, and behind him were experts of the Holy Thunder Clan surging with tyrannical auras. With the arrival of the reinforcements, everyone's attention fell on Lei Wusheng and the others. At this moment, everyone's attention was drawn back. The previous battle had also revolved around that mountain peak. Now that the reinforcements had arrived, did it mean that the mountain under Zi Chen's feet really had a great opportunity? I know.